Chapter 47:16. As soon as Lin Yi put away the Thunder Xian Ratan, Kong Ming and Su Lingchong rushed in the next moment. Both sides couldn't help but be a little stunned for a moment. They subconsciously took 2 steps back and confronted each other. Aya, we are really enemies on a narrow road. I was wondering who was so insensible and dared to get here first. It turns out to be you, the pretentious leader. Kong Ming reacted and immediately jumped. At the same time, he couldn't help but aim the laser cannon at Lin Yi. He couldn't wait to find a chance to shoot this guy. Not only Kong Ming and Su Lingchong were shocked, but in fact, Lin Yi and Hui Yudi were even more shocked than them at the moment. Although they were aware of it in advance, Lin Yi's shock at the moment was not faked. He really didn't expect these 2 guys to come here. Glancing at the laser cannon in Kong Ming's hand without a trace, Lin Yi had quietly prepared to make a move. With the strength of the 2 opponents, there was no threat to them, but this laser cannon could easily kill a nascent soul stage expert, so they had to be on guard. In particular, the other party also occupied the position of the exit. Once they fought, the 2 of them were in a very disadvantageous position. It was simply like a turtle in a jar. If they wanted to make a move, they must make the first move. At the same time, Hui Yudi was also secretly holding her breath. It was basically impossible to be kind when encountering the 2 of them at this time. Although she was a woman, if they really wanted to fight, she, Hui Yudi, would definitely be the one to make the first move. Compared to Kong Ming, who wanted to take the opportunity to find trouble with Lin Yi, Su Lingchong's focus was on the Thunder Xian Ratan. After glancing at the situation on the cliff, he couldn't help but frown and said, "Hey, why are these Thunder Xian Ratan not too mature yet? Could it be that the mature ones have been cut off by you? Are you blind? If you cut it off, then find it and see. Did you eat it? The 2 of us have just arrived here," Lin Yi said in an unfriendly tone. Su Lingchong and Kong Ming looked at each other and confirmed that Lin Yi and Hui Yudi didn't have any Thunder Xian Ratan on their bodies. After all, if this thing was really chopped off, its volume wouldn't be small. He definitely couldn't hide it on his body. "Are the 2 of you also here for the Thunder Xian Ratan?" Su Lingchong asked again. "Nonsense. If you don't come here for the Thunder Xian Ratan, do you think you're here for the scenery?" There was an obvious smell of gunpowder in Lin Yi's tone, giving people the feeling that he had suffered a setback and was sulking. He coldly snorted and said, "We went through so much trouble to come here, but who knew that it was not ripe yet? We came here for nothing and can only go back empty-handed. What bad luck." As he spoke, he gave Hui Yudi a look. Lin Yi took the lead and walked out with an unfriendly expression. Su Lingchong and Kong Ming didn't stop them. Anyway, the other party didn't get the Thunder Xian Ratan, so it didn't matter to let them go. They tactfully made way for them. Hui Yudi anxiously followed Lin Yi's footsteps. As a result, they passed smoothly. She couldn't help but admire Lin Yi's calmness and resourcefulness. He obviously had a whole Thunder Xian Ratan, but he could still deceive the other party. His acting was really superb. He let Lin Yi and Hui Yudi pass. Kong Ming originally wanted to take the opportunity to find trouble, but since Lin Yi was so sensible and took the initiative to give way, and the higher-ups said that they couldn't take the initiative to provoke the other party, he simply couldn't be bothered. He turned to Su Lingchong and said, "Young Master Su, since that's the case, let's go dig it ourselves. Don't bother with this pretentious leader. These 2 Thunder Xian Ratans haven't matured yet. It's useless to take them back." Su Lingchong frowned and shook his head. "That's true." Kong Ming thought for a moment. Then he suggested, "Why don't we uproot them and take them back? Anyway, it's the higher-ups' order. Let them solve this matter by themselves. We've done our best." Uproot them? That's not good, is it? Su Lingchong couldn't help but hesitate. Although he wasn't a good person by nature, he was, after all, a disciple cultivated by the 3 pavilions of the North Island. The imperceptible influence of the famous sects influenced his behavior. At least, he knew the unspoken rule of leaving a way out for everything. But we can't go back empty-handed like this pretentious leader, can we? Although these 2 Thunder Mystic Vines haven't matured yet, we're doing our duty by cutting them down and bringing them back. The higher-ups won't be able to say anything. If we leave like this and the higher-ups blame us, we won't be able to handle it, Kang Xiaoming advised. At the thought of being punished by the mysterious man, Su Lingchong couldn't help but shiver. He had to nod and agree. Well, let's do as you say. After that, they were ready to dig up the two immature Thunder Xian Ratans. Lin Yi was about to reach the exit. After noticing their movement, he was shocked. If it was something else, he really didn't want to get involved. But this involved the interests of the whole West Island, especially Ning Xuefei's interests. He couldn't just stand by. If it weren't for this consideration, Lin Yi would have transplanted all these Thunder Xian Ratans into the space of his jade pendant. How could Su Lingchong and Kang Mingming have a chance? Lin Yi suddenly appeared behind them, which really startled Su Lingchong and Kang Mingming. They didn't expect that this guy would come back. Su Lingchong suddenly acted as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Although he was a master of the gathering vitality stage now, he had suffered too many losses from Lin Yi before, so he was a little scared from the bottom of his heart. If he faced Lin Yi alone, his first reaction would definitely be to turn around and run away. But this time it was different. He had Kang Mingming with a full suit of high-tech equipment, whose combat capability was comparable to that of a master of the mysterious ascending stage. Naturally, he wouldn't be scared by Lin. What? Pretentious leader, you won't tell me that you regret now and want to get a share of the profits, will you? Let me tell you, no way. Kang Mingming said arrogantly. At the same time, he pointed at Lin Yi with the laser cannon, his face full of disdain. Su Lingchong stepped back with fear on his face. Kang Mingming was a ready-made human shield, and he wasn't afraid of Lin Yi's surprise attack at all. But Su Lingchong couldn't do that. If they really fought, he might be easily killed in a second, which would be a great injustice. You don't even let go of the immature Thunder Xian Ratans, and you want to dig up the roots. Anyway, you are the disciples of the 3 pavilions of the North Island. You have no bottom line. Hui Yudi, who appeared behind Lin Yi, looked at the two angrily. Chapter 47:17. Humph, the North Island and the West Island have always been on good terms. You two treat the treasure of heaven and earth of the West Island like this. If the news gets out, how do you think the leaders of the North Island will deal with you? Maybe it will directly alarm Pavilion Master Shangwan. Are you sure you can withstand it with your Ultraman equipment? Lin Yi sneered. Sent, Kang Xiaoming and Su Lingchong's expressions changed when they heard that. Although the other party's words were frightening, it wasn't impossible. If they were to accuse them of deliberately destroying the relationship between the two islands, then they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Although Kang Mingming's super high-tech equipment was awesome and unscrupulous, he did not dare to face the anger of a super big shot like Shanghai Tianhua. Kang Mingming was speechless for a moment, but Su Lingchong, who was hiding behind him, said, "Are you kidding? The treasure of heaven and earth belongs to those who are capable. Since we are allowed to participate in the trial of the West Island this time, as long as we have the ability, the Thunder Xian Ratan will naturally be at our disposal. The rules of the trial didn't say that we can't dig the Thunder Xian Ratan, right?" Yes, since the rules of the trial didn't say it, it means that it is tacitly allowed, and no one can find fault with it. Kang Mingming quickly echoed and sneered at Lin Yi and Su Lingchong. You are stupid, but you blame others. You are also acting righteously. Tut, the pretentious leader is really the pretentious leader. You are really twisting words and forcing logic. How could the 3 pavilions of the North Island cultivate such rogue disciples like you? You have done this kind of thing and you are still proud. You are so shameless. Hui Yudi said angrily. Hee, when we get the Thunder Xian Ratan, I will be the winner of this trial. When I marry the princess of the West Island, you will know whether I am shameless or not. Kang Mingming laughed. Now he somewhat looked down on Hui Yudi. The Thunder Xian Ratan, a rare treasure of heaven and earth, was in his hands. Even if others tried their best to grab a basket of treasures of heaven and earth, it would be useless. Its value was far less than a small piece here. In other words, Princess Ning Xuefei of the West Island was already in his pocket, just like the Thunder Xian Ratan. Don't worry. You won't be able to get the Thunder Profound Ratan. Lin Yi's expression turned cold. Before he finished his words, he raised his hand and released a murderous aura of the 5 elements. Previously, he was not ready to fight to the death with Kang Ming, who was fully equipped with high-tech equipment, so it was okay for him to take a step back. But now that Kang Ming had made it clear that he wanted to lay his hands on Ning Xuefei, he had touched his reverse scale, and he had to kill him. Seeing that Lin Yi had suddenly launched an attack and hearing the vague yet breathtaking dragon roar, Kang Ming's eyelids couldn't help but twitch. Although he wasn't afraid of Lin Yi now, the power he had accumulated for a long time was already deeply ingrained in his heart. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't flustered at all. As for Su Lingchong, he was terrified to the point that he simply hid behind Kang Ming. The lesson of Ma Daoqiang, the intermediate stage nascent soul realm cultivator, was still vivid in his mind. Even if his true strength was slightly stronger than Ma Daoqiang, it was still limited, and he knew that he was absolutely not a match for a freak like Lin Yi. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the 5 elements murderous qi had already blasted onto Kang Ming's chest, and the aftermath that escaped caused the surrounding area to shake. It could be seen how powerful it was. Hui Yudi was overjoyed seeing this. She didn't have a good impression of a hateful guy like Kang Ming, especially when he did things without a bottom line. She simply hated him to the extreme and couldn't wait for Lin Yi to kill him. From now on, there would be one less bastard in the world. However, in the next moment, Hui Yudi's eyes suddenly widened. She had already seen this move of Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous qi several times on the road, especially the scene where he casually slapped Scarface away. It left a deep impression on her. After all, Scarface was a profound ascending stage expert. Using such a powerful killing move to deal with Kang Ming, Hui Yudi originally thought that it would be a piece of cake. However, she didn't expect that after Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous qi hit him head-on, Kang Ming only snorted and took half a step back. That was all. Not to mention Hui Yudi, even Lin Yi himself couldn't help but be shocked by this result. The 5 elements murderous qi was his current strongest killing move. It was a powerful trump card that could instantly kill a profound ascending stage expert, but Kang Ming was hit head-on in the chest, and there was no damage at all. How was this possible? Ha, pretentious boss, you're only a Kang Ming was a little panicked at first, but now he suddenly became arrogant. I'm not afraid to tell you, this is the latest super high-tech intelligent armor that I developed. Even a full blow from a profound ascending stage expert can be easily defended. You're just a mere peak early nascent soul stage expert. When Lin Yi heard this, he couldn't help but frown. He had already overestimated Kang Ming's equipment, or else he wouldn't have chosen to take the initiative to retreat in the beginning. However, he thought that the thing he should be most afraid of was the laser cannon, but he didn't expect the opponent's intelligent armor to be even more difficult to deal with. Even the strongest 5 elements murderous qi couldn't be used. Didn't this mean that the opponent was in an invincible position? Since he couldn't hit the body, he could only hit the head. At least the head was not protected by the armor. Lin Yi didn't hesitate to attack again. However, before he could condense the 5 elements murderous qi again, the intelligent armor on Kang Ming's body suddenly moved and actually covered his head tightly. This time, there was no blind spot, and he had completely become Ultraman. For a moment, Lin Yi was a little helpless. In this situation, if he didn't find a way to break this intelligent armor, he couldn't fight at all. But if he just retreated like this, then the 2 Thunder Shenratans would definitely fall into the hands of the opponent. It would not only cause a huge loss to West Island, but the key was that it was related to Ning Xuefei's marriage. Lin Yi couldn't let a bastard like Kang Ming have the last laugh, could he? Although he had a mature Thunder Shenratan, if Kang Ming dug out 2 of them, the value would be more than his. Now you have no choice, right? I haven't done anything yet. Come on, I'll let you, the pretentious leader, taste the power of my laser cannon. Kang Ming laughed and immediately set up the laser cannon. Before his voice died away, he directly shot the laser cannon at Lin. Under normal circumstances, this kind of instantaneous weapon couldn't be dodged at all. It would definitely hit where it was pointed, and there was almost no time difference in between. No matter how strong and fast one was, it was nonsense. Could it be faster than the speed of light? Fortunately, Lin Yi had the warning of the jade pendant, and he made a dodging movement in advance before Kong Ming made his move, so he could barely escape. The laser cannon missed the target, and the laser cannon actually blasted a bottomless pit on the cliff here. Its power was so amazing that it was appalling. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little frightened. Even the full blow of a master at the full completion of Mysterious Ascension couldn't be so fucking terrifying. Chapter 47:18. However, it was clear that this kid did not intend to let Lin Yi go so easily. Kong Ming immediately followed up with another shot. Usually, he could not take the initiative to provoke Lin Yi, but this time, Lin Yi made the first move. Kong Ming had no qualms about fighting back. How could he let go of such an opportunity so easily? Lin Yi saw that the situation was not good. He quickly retreated with Huiyudi and temporarily escaped from the opponent's line of sight by using the cliff as a cover. This was the only way. The super high-tech equipment of the smart armor and the laser cannon was too fierce. Even if his strength was 100 times higher than Kong Ming's, he could not do anything to the opponent for a while. If Lin Yi was alone, it would be fine. With the warning of the jade pendant, he could at least deal with the opponent head-on. He might have a chance to find the opponent's weakness. However, he had to consider Huiyudi's safety now. Even if Kong Ming did not deliberately target her, it was very easy for him to accidentally hurt her. The laser cannon was something that could kill a person. After a few turns, Lin Yi and Huiyudi had already escaped to the exit. Seeing that Kong Ming did not chase after them, they stopped and looked at each other. What should we do? Are we just going to let them dig up the Thunder Mystic Vine? Huiyudi looked at Lin Yi in shock. The scene just now had made her understand the horror of the opponent's equipment. Even Lin Yi could not do anything to the opponent, let alone her. Basically, even if Kong Ming stood in front of her and let her hit him, she would not be able to do anything. Lin Yi shook his head unwillingly, but he could not think of a solution at the moment. He believed that even the super high-tech equipment must have a weakness. But how could he find this weakness? That was an undeniable problem. At this moment, Lin Yi suddenly felt his heart tighten. The warning of the jade pendant in his mind was ringing wildly. Without saying anything, he quickly pushed Huiyudi to the ground. Ah! Huiyudi let out a cry of surprise. Her face was completely red as she looked at Lin Yi, who was pressing down on her. She could feel his manly aura so close to her, and her face was so red that it seemed as if it was about to drip blood. She couldn't help but say angrily, "What are you doing? Do you want to kill him first?" Pooh. Lin Yi was originally quite nervous, but when he heard her words, he immediately burst into laughter. How did this girl's brain work? Even at this time, she could think of killing him first? Lin Yi didn't say anything, but silently pointed upwards. Huiyudi looked in the direction of his finger and was instantly shocked. There was a huge hole in the place where they had just been standing. It was obvious that Kong Ming hadn't given up and had blindly fired in the direction of the exit. The power of this laser cannon was terrifying. It directly pierced through the 4 cliffs in the middle of the road. If it weren't for Lin Yi's timely rescue, both of them would have been dead by now. Perhaps they would have already gone to the Yellow Springs together. Let's get out of here first. Lin Yi pulled Huiyudi up and looked at Kong Ming, who was inside the big hole, from afar. He immediately flashed out of the 5 Thunder Tribulation archway. It was too dangerous to continue staying inside. This laser cannon was simply unreasonable. Haha, the pretentious old man has become a coward. This time I must let you suffer. Kong Ming laughed complacently. Seeing Lin Yi and Huiyu Hao fleeing in panic, he immediately set off to chase and kill them. He didn't intend to let Lin Yi go so easily. Even if he couldn't kill him, he had to make a hole in Lin Yi's body to collect some interest. Forget it. Business is more important. Let's dig out the Thunder Xian Vine first. Su Lingchong tried to stop him. Although he also hated Lin Yi to the core, he still remembered the mysterious man's warning. If Kong Ming really killed Lin Yi with one shot, Su Lingchong would be afraid. If the higher-ups blamed him, it would be impossible for him to stay out of it. He did not want to complicate matters. All right then, I'll let that pretentious old man go for now. I'll deal with him after we get out of here. Kong Ming Ming reluctantly put away the laser cannon and began to dig out the Thunder Xian vine with his eyes shining. As long as he got these 2 Thunder Xian vines, he not only completed the task assigned by the higher-ups, but also could get Ning Xuefei, the Princess of West Island, into his pocket at the same time. This kind of beautiful thing, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, would only appear in a dream. Inside, the 2 people were digging the Thunder Xian vine in full swing. Outside, Lin Yi and Hui Yudi were looking at the 5 Thunder Tribulation archway in front of them and were at a loss of what to do. Not to mention Hui Yudi, Lin Yi was definitely not willing to retreat like this. But he could do nothing about Kong Ming Ming's super high-tech equipment. It was really a dilemma. You stay outside and find a place to hide first. I'll go in and try again. Lin Yi thought for a while and said. But he could still deal with the other party for a while by himself. No matter what, even if it was for Ning Xuefei, he could not retreat like this. Are you sure? Hui Yudi quickly pulled him and asked. To be honest, I'm really not sure, but I have to try anyway. If I don't try, I'll never find a way. If I try, I may have a chance. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Well, if you want to go, I'll go with you. Hui Yudi said with a firm look. Why do you want to go with me? Lin Yi could not help but be stunned. Then he seemed to think of something. He took out a piece of Thunder Xian vine from the space of the jade pendant and handed it to her. Although it was a rough estimate, it was at least a lot more than the 20% that was previously agreed. What are you doing? Hui Yudi was also stunned. You came here for the Thunder Xian vine. Now that your purpose has been achieved, you don't have to continue to follow me and take risks. Lin Yi looked at her and said, if they went in again, it would be inevitable to fight hard. It was okay for him, but for Hui Yudi, it was a dangerous situation. He did not want this little girl to be implicated because of him. Aren't you also going for the Thunder Xian vine? Then why do you want to go back and take risks? Hui Yudi pouted. I'm going back for Ning Xuefei. Don't tell me you also want to fight for Ning Xuefei. You are a woman. Lin Yi heard her words and laughed. I don't care. If I want to leave this place, I can leave. If I want to stay, I can stay. If you want to go in, I want to go in too. Hui Yudi stubbornly said. Lin Yi suddenly felt a headache when he heard this. Ever since this little girl put on the denim suit, she was more and more developing into a delinquent girl in the secular world. Even the tone and manner of speaking were the same. How could this be endured? Seeing that Hui Yudi refused to let him go in alone, Lin Yi felt helpless and could not help but feel a little touched. After getting along for 10 days, the 2 of them could be regarded as real friends. Otherwise, if it was just a simple union of interests, they would have parted ways long ago. Why would she insist on staying to accompany him? After all, this was risking her life. Chapter 47:19. In order to deal with Kong Ming Ming's super high-tech equipment, Han Jingjing specially gave him a mobile phone before he set off. Just now, he was in a hurry and forgot about it. Ignoring Hui Yudi's surprised gaze, Lin Yi immediately took out the mobile phone. As soon as he turned it on, he found that this place was a little better than expected. Although the signal was very weak, he could still receive a little bit. It could be seen that this place should not be too far from the mainland of West Island. Otherwise, the small base station set up by Han Jingjing could not reach it at all. There was only one number saved on the mobile phone. Without thinking, he knew that it must be Ning Xuefei's. Looking at the 5 major Heaven Stage islands, only she and Han Jingjing could use mobile phones to make calls. Brother Lin. Han Jingjing's excited voice soon came from the other end of the phone. Obviously, Ning Xuefei's mobile phone had been temporarily taken care of by her in order to provide off-site support to Lin Yi at any time. She had been carrying it with her for so many days, waiting for this moment. Jingjing, I'm in a little trouble now. Help me think of a way to solve it. Lin Yi had no time for small talk and said directly, I'm fighting with Kong Ming Ming, but his armor is like a tortoise shell. Even if I use my strongest martial arts to attack, it is useless. Even his head is covered tightly. It seems that there is no blind spot. Well, Han Jingjing could not help but fall into deep thought. After a while, she said, it's really difficult to deal with it. If only I were here, maybe I could find a solution. But it can't be done in a short time. Since the defense of his armor is so strong, I'm afraid that normal attack methods are not realistic unless what? Lin Yi asked quickly. Use electric shock. Han Jingjing's voice was loud. Electric shock? Why didn't I think of it? Lin Yi was stunned at first, and then his eyes lit up. To deal with Kong Ming Ming's metal armor, which was like a tortoise shell, electric shock was definitely the most effective and fatal method. No matter how strong his defense was, it would be useless. Once the electricity was activated, he would be able to ignore it. Not only would this metal armor not be able to save Kong Ming Ming, but it would also be the talisman that would hasten his death. Coincidentally, a few days ago, even if Lin Yi wanted to use electric shock on Kong Ming Ming, it would have been impossible. That was because he didn't have any means of electrocution. However, things were different now. He had mastered the power of lightning from the inheritance of the giant electric eel. Even though its power was far inferior to the 5 elements killing aura, it was more than enough to deal with Kong Ming Ming. Lin Yi was so excited that he was about to hang up when Han Jingjing spoke up. Lin Yi bro, don't get too excited just yet. The electrocution was just a possible countermeasure. Let's not talk about whether or not it'll work, but I doubt that a high-tech armor like his wouldn't be able to do that. Maybe it's not afraid of electric shock at all. How is that possible? Lin Yi was shocked. After all, this loophole is too obvious. If I were the designer of this armor, I would definitely think of a way to solve this problem. Even if I can't make it completely immune to electric shock, I would at least try to make up for this weakness. I dare say that this armor has an insulating layer. Normal electric shock is definitely useless, Han Jingjing said with certainty. Then what should we do? Doesn't that mean we're really helpless? Lin Yi felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. His little bit of excitement was instantly extinguished. Han Jingjing was an expert in this area. Since she dared to come to such a conclusion, it meant that it couldn't be wrong. Thinking about it carefully, whether it was the AI armor or the laser cannon, they were both high-tech products that could almost represent the highest level of technology in the mortal world. If there was such an obvious loophole in these things, it would be child's play. Han Jingjing thought for a moment and said, because I can't get first-hand information, I can't think of any other way. For the time being, it seems that electric shock is the most effective way to deal with it. However, it can't be a simple electric shock. We have to do some preparatory work first. What preparatory work? Lin Yi asked hurriedly. And so. Han Jingjing explained it over the phone, and Lin Yi calmed down. He couldn't wait to hang up the phone and get ready to test it on Kong Ming Ming. What is this thing? Is it a technological product from the mortal world? Seeing that Lin Yi seemed to be prepared, Hui Yudi asked. She saw that Lin Yi was talking to this thing. She saw that there was a vague female voice coming from it. It sounded like it was Han Jingjing. This was too magical. At this moment, her eyes were filled with little stars of curiosity. Her heart felt like it was being scratched by hundreds of claws. She couldn't wait to snatch it and study it. Oh, this is a mobile phone, a very common communication tool in the mortal world. You can study it later when you are free. Lin Yi threw the mobile phone to Hui Yudi. After taking a deep breath, he carefully re-entered the light circle of the 5 Thunder Tribulation archway. Seeing that Lin Yi went in, Hui Yudi naturally didn't want to be left behind. She immediately put the mobile phone and the Thunder Xian vine that Lin Yi gave her into her backpack and followed him in tiptoeing. The scene in front of them changed. Lin Yi and Hui Yudi reappeared in the narrow passage one after another. Standing at the exit, they could see the situation inside from afar. At this time, Kong Ming Ming and Su Lingchong were digging the Thunder Xian vine in full swing. Each of them had 1 Thunder Xian vine, and they were very happy. Lin Yi made a shushing gesture to Hui Yudi, and then his figure flashed. In order to gain the upper hand before the other party noticed and reacted, he didn't hesitate to use the extreme butterfly microsteps. His whole person was like a ghost, approaching the two of them at the fastest speed. Hui Yudi looked at this scene nervously, and her heart was in her throat. She didn't know what method Han Jingjing and Lin Yi had discussed just now. She only knew that if Lin Yi didn't succeed this time, then the two of them would really be in danger. Relying on the intelligent armor and the laser cannon, Kong Ming Ming was now an invincible humanoid monster. Unfortunately, this was not his true strength. Once it involved the field where these two equipment couldn't be used, he was immediately beaten back to his original state, such as divine sense perception. Until Lin Yi appeared behind him silently, Kong Ming Ming still didn't realize it. Instead, Su Lingchong, who was next to him, reacted first. Without saying anything, he fled to the side and shouted in horror, "Lin Yi!" Chapter 47:20. Looking at the helmet wrapped around Kong Ming Ming's head, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel pity. He didn't expect this guy to be so cautious. Even at this time, he still wrapped the helmet. Otherwise, he would have been killed instantly. However, it was just a little pity. Lin Yi wasn't stupid enough to place his hopes on the opponent's carelessness. According to the plan he discussed with Han Jingjing, even if the opponent didn't reveal any flaws, he could still find a way to create one. The first reaction of Kong Ming Ming when he saw Lin Yi was to shoot him with a cannon. Unfortunately, before he could turn the muzzle of the laser cannon, Lin Yi had already made the first move. For a moment, the temperature in the narrow canyon rose sharply. A soaring flame instantly swept in all directions, followed by a series of continuous rumbling sounds. It was the Raging Flame Thousand Bursts Fist. This killing move originated from the Raging Sand Thousand Bursts Fist. Its power was strong enough to deal with a nascent soul-perfected expert. Su Lingchong, who was hiding far away, was already a little overwhelmed by the aftermath. Unfortunately, Kong Ming Ming stood in the center of the explosion and didn't move an inch. Even the murderous aura of the 5 elements just now couldn't do anything to him. Naturally, the Raging Flame Thousand Bursts Fist had no effect on him. What kind of bullshit move is this? The momentum looks quite scary. Unfortunately, it's not enough to tickle me. The only use for it is that I don't have to buy fireworks and firecrackers during Chinese New Year. Kong Ming Ming laughed proudly. At this moment, Lin Yi was completely a clown in his eyes. He actually dared to sneak back to attack. What's the use of that? What Kong Ming Ming wanted to do the most now was to point the laser cannon at Lin Yi and make this pretentious leader kneel on the ground and sing "Conquer" to him. At this moment, the two of them were very close. Unfortunately, he couldn't find Lin Yi. Because of the chaos and light caused by the Raging Flame Thousand Bursts Fist, he couldn't adapt to it in a short period of time. At this moment, he was simply deaf and blind. Even if Lin Yi stood in front of him, he wouldn't be able to detect him. This was the effect Lin Yi wanted. After letting out a cold laugh, the 5 elements killing aura in his palm, which he had been accumulating for a long time, struck again. Along with the dragon's roar that was drowned out by the loud rumbling sound, the 5 elements killing aura condensed into a single point and struck the center of his opponent's helmet. As expected, although Lin Yi attacked with all his might and even thought of a way to condense his destructive power into a single point, he still couldn't break through his opponent's defense in the end. It had to be said that Kong Xiaoming's AI armor's defensive capabilities were unparalleled. It would be hard to find another piece of equipment that could compare to it in this world. However, Lin Yi did not give up just like that. He used his 5 elemental killing aura to pierce through his opponent's armor. This was similar to the Berserk Flame Thousand Bursts Fist he used to deceive others. It was only a small step in his and Han Jingjing's plan. The best part was yet to come. The 5 elements killing aura continuously bombarded the same point. If 1 was not enough, he would use 2. If 2 was not enough, he would use 3. In any case, Lin Yi had an endless supply of vital energy in his body. He was not afraid of this level of consumption at all. Furthermore, Kong Ming Ming had a body full of awesome equipment. His reaction speed was so slow that it made people's hair stand on end. It seemed that as long as the Berserk Flame Thousand Bursts Fist continued, he would not be able to notice that his head was being split open. This continued for almost half the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. Under Lin Yi's deliberate control, the Berserk Flame Thousand Bursts Fist did not stop. As for Kong Ming Ming, it was as if he had become a fool. He allowed Lin Yi to recklessly split open his head without noticing anything. Finally, amidst the chaos, there was a faint cracking sound. The rumbling sound of the Berserk Flame Thousand Bursts Fist slowly stopped. The dazzling flame then dispersed. The narrow valley path returned to its original state. Kong Ming Ming then found Lin Yi, who was standing in front of him. He immediately laughed crazily. "Pretentious head, is your brain flooded with water? Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? You know that your sneak attack didn't work, yet you didn't escape. You still dare to stand here. Are you pretending to be a fool?" "I'm not a fool, but you're about to become one." Lin Yi smiled faintly. Before he finished his sentence, a blue electric arc suddenly jumped out from his fingertip. It drew a clear arc and instantly landed on the top of Kong Ming Ming's helmet. Kong Ming Ming was stunned. He did not expect Lin Yi to be able to generate electricity. Could it be that Han Jingjing gave him some kind of artifact? However, he was not afraid. He was about to mock Lin. One must know that his AI armor was electricity resistant. In his eyes, what Lin Yi was doing was purely a clown. However, before he could grin, he heard a cracking sound coming from the top of his head. His whole body suddenly started to twitch crazily and he started to do a weird breakdance on the spot. Under the dazzling electric light, even the outline of his bones became vaguely visible. Black smoke kept coming out of his head. This was simply the rhythm of a person being electrocuted. Su Lingchong, who had escaped to the side, was immediately dumbfounded when he saw this scene. What was going on? He thought that Kong Ming Ming would be able to defeat Lin Yi with his awesome equipment. However, looking at the situation now, why was he the one being defeated? To be honest, Lin Yi had just mastered the power of thunder and lightning. Its power was really not that strong. However, after the insulation layer of Kong Ming Ming's AI armor was broken, it became a solid metal cage. The power of the thunder and lightning that entered it increased by several times. As long as he was still wearing this AI armor, Kong Ming Ming could not even escape. However, even so, Kong Ming Ming was still struggling like an undying cockroach. In the end, the power of Lin Yi's electric arc was too weak. In desperation, Lin Yi could only continue to activate the power of thunder and lightning. The flashing blue electric arcs were continuously injected into the metal armor. Kong Ming Ming had no chance to break free. He could only be fixed there and tremble. In this way, Kong Ming Ming was completely dominated by Lin. He could no longer fight back. Even if his vitality was really like a cockroach, it was only a matter of time before he was electrocuted to death. It would just take a little more effort. However, at this moment, Hui Yudi's scream suddenly came from afar. "Be careful!" Lin Yi was shocked. In fact, even without Hui Yudi's reminder, he had already received a warning from the Jade Pendant. However, because all his attention was on Kong Ming Ming, he did not react for a moment. Moreover, the opponent's attack was too fast. There was no way to predict it in advance. There was no way to dodge it because it was a laser. Lin Yi's action was still a little too late. An extremely dazzling and powerful laser quietly attacked at the speed of light. There was no shocking sound, but Lin Yi's abdomen was directly penetrated, and a shocking big hole was blasted out. Before Lin Yi slowly fell, he caught a glimpse of the initiator of this laser from the corner of his eye. It was actually Su Lingchong. Chapter 47:21. Amidst the chaos of the raging flame thousand explosive fist, the laser cannon was unknowingly thrown to the side and fell into Su Lingchong's hands. What was even more unexpected to Lin Yi was that this guy actually knew how to use the laser cannon. This was a super high-tech weapon that represented the pinnacle of technology in the secular world. No matter how smart and simple the operation was, it was definitely not something that could be done by simply pulling the trigger. Without any scientific knowledge, an ordinary person wouldn't even be able to find the switch, let alone use it to kill people. Lin Yi initially thought that only Kong Ming Ming would know how to use this kind of thing. After all, it was like this along the way. If not, he was afraid that a small character like Kong Ming Ming wouldn't be able to take it. Therefore, from the beginning to the end, Su Lingchong could be said to be no threat in his eyes. Just like just now, Lin Yi didn't even need to specifically target him. Just the aftermath of the raging flame thousand explosive fist was enough to make Su Lingchong unable to take it. Even if Su Lingchong still had some strength left, with his little strength, he wouldn't be able to threaten Lin Yi at all. Even if he used his strongest martial arts, Lin Yi had enough confidence to single-handedly take it. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that after all the steps went smoothly, he would actually fall into this guy's trap. This guy actually knew how to use the laser cannon. Looking at Lin Yi slowly falling down with a face full of disbelief, Su Lingchong's mouth instantly revealed a trace of a plot that had succeeded. Although the laser cannon was a very high-tech thing, he was a smart person among smart people. Previously, when he saw Kong Mingming use it a few times, he had already learned it. This was just a small test. When Lin Yi fell down, only then did Kong Mingming finally escape the tragic fate of being electrocuted alive. He was almost electrocuted alive. The top of his head was constantly emitting black smoke, looking like he was already dead. However, this kid's vitality was really tenacious. Until now, he actually still had one last breath left. Of course, his consciousness was already blurred. The reason why he could still stand at this moment was purely because of the support of the smart armor. Seeing that, Su Lingchong heaved a sigh of relief. Whether Kong Mingming died or not was actually not important to him, but no matter what, he was still a rare confidant. Moreover, he was going to let this kid compete for Ning Xuefei. He would be a great help in the future. Lin Yi. At this moment, Hui Yudi rushed over from the entrance and threw herself onto Lin Yi's body without a care for anything else. When she saw the ghastly bloody hole in Lin Yi's abdomen, she immediately felt the world spin around her and her mind go blank. She was a girl as cold as a snow lotus, but at this moment, she had completely disregarded her image and turned into a tearful mess. Hui Yudi herself didn't know why she was like this. Ever since she was young, this was the first time she had been so worried about someone and cared so much about him, especially when the other party was a man she had not known for long. Apart from being at a loss of what to do, Hui Yudi's mind was only filled with regret, endless regret. She hated herself for hiding so far away. If she was by Lin Yi's side just now, how could she have given Su Lingchong such an opportunity to take advantage of? How could Lin Yi have fallen into such a precarious situation today? It was a pity. This was only her wishful thinking. The raging flame thousand bursts was an indiscriminate attack within a certain range, apart from Lin Yi himself. Anyone who stood within it would definitely be heavily injured, regardless of friend or foe. If Hui Yudi had really been by Lin Yi's side just now, not to mention dealing with Su Lingchong, she herself would probably have been blasted half to death first. At that time, Lin Yi would have to divert his attention to take care of her and wouldn't have the chance to focus on dealing with Kong Mingming. Lin Yi, don't die. Hui Yudi helplessly looked at the frightening bloody hole in Lin Yi's abdomen. She watched helplessly as Lin Yi fell into a deep coma, his breath becoming weaker and weaker. The last remaining signs of life were about to completely disappear, but she couldn't do anything at all. Looking at Lin Yi's deathly pale face, Hui Yudi sobbed uncontrollably. Other than hating herself for being useless, she really didn't know what to do at this time. If there was a way to save Lin Yi, she was even willing to pay any price, but how could she save him? Great recovery pill. Yes, I still have a supreme-grade great recovery pill. Hui Yudi was like a drowning person grabbing onto the last life-saving straw. She hurriedly took out the supreme-grade great recovery pill that her master had left for her to save her life, and tried everything to make Lin Yi swallow it. Although she also knew that this might not be of any use, if she couldn't quickly think of a way to deal with the bloody hole in Lin Yi's abdomen, no matter how many supreme-grade great recovery pills he ate, it would be of no use. After all, this wasn't the secular world. If Lin Yi could still maintain his consciousness, then he would have a way to do a simple treatment for himself. But Hui Yudi didn't know how to do it. How could she do such a difficult surgery? Hui Yudi was a little more courageous. If it were any other girl looking at Lin Yi's injury, they would have already fainted. While Hui Yudi's mind was blank from crying, on the other side, Su Lingchong took this opportunity to put away the thunder xian vine that he had almost dug out. He didn't care about digging the other one. Without saying anything, he carried the half-dead and unconscious Kong Mingming, turned around and ran. Although he was still carrying the laser cannon in his hand, he didn't want to continue to entangle with Hui Yudi. After all, this little girl was an expert at the peak of the nascent soul stage, and her real strength was much stronger than his. And the most important thing was Hui Yudi's background in the East Continent. He didn't want to casually incur hatred with her. Although this matter seemed to be hidden, what if it was discovered? For Su Lingchong at this time, anyway, everything that should be done had been done, and the task had also been completed. There was really no need to continue to dawdle, lest a long night brings trouble. What's more, he suddenly killed Lin Yi with a cannon this time. When he returned, he didn't know how to explain it to the higher-ups. Although this situation was pardonable, in the end, it was still a violation of the higher-ups' order. He didn't know whether the mysterious man would blame him or not. Alas, he could only take one step at a time. However, even if the mysterious man really punished him, Su Lingchong could only pinch his nose and accept it. Anyway, he took this opportunity to successfully get rid of his sworn enemy, Lin. No matter how he looked at it, it was not a loss for him. And if it really didn't work, he could use Kong Mingming to take the blame, and he could just stay out of it. On the other side, Su Lingchong carried Kong Mingming and ran quickly to the exit. Hui Yudi, who was immersed in grief and hesitation, suddenly came to a realization. If Lin Yi was really going to die, then even if she had to risk her life, she would put Su Lingchong and Kong Mingming, the two main culprits, to death and avenge Lin Yi. Chapter 47:22. It seemed that it was too late to chase after him. After all, Hui Yudi could not possibly leave Lin Yi here with his last breath. Hui Yudi didn't know what to do at this point. She could only sit beside Lin Yi and cry her heart out. She didn't know how long it had been, but the beauty's eyes were swollen from crying. If someone else were to see this scene, they would definitely be heartbroken. People who didn't know better might even think that she was the wife of a deceased husband. No. Hui Yudi suddenly shook her head and mumbled to herself, I can't keep crying like this, I have to think of a way to save Lin Yi, I have to think of a way, I can't just watch him die. Hui Yudi knew that it was useless to rely on herself. The Great Recover pill on her was also of no help. Since she could not think of a way, she could only ask for help from others. However, no one would enter this place. After all, there were very few people who knew about this place. There were even fewer people who could pass through the Sky Thunder Array outside. Hui Yudi thought for a moment and immediately prepared to carry the dying Lin. No matter what, she had to get out of here first. There might be medical experts among the other participants. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, she must not let it go. Hui Yudi was using all her strength to help Lin Yi up. Suddenly, a small object fell out of her backpack. Hui Yudi looked at it and was stunned. Wasn't this the thing that Lin Yi used to communicate with Han Jingjing? Hui Yudi's breathing suddenly became rapid. This thing that Lin Yi called a cell phone was no less than a life-saving straw in her eyes. If she could communicate with Han Jingjing now, she might be able to find a way to save Lin Yi. Hui Yudi did not have time to think too much. She quickly picked up the cell phone and fiddled with it. She had never seen a cell phone before and did not know how to use it. She had only seen Lin Yi use it once. Therefore, she could only rely on memory and imitate Lin Yi's actions. He tried all kinds of methods. Fortunately, there was only one number saved in the phone. Hui Yudi was sweating profusely as she fumbled around for a while. She accidentally pressed the call button, and the call was successfully made. Big brother Lin Yi? How is it? Did it work? Han Jingjing's voice came from the phone. She was anxiously waiting for Lin Yi's results on the other side. Hearing Han Jingjing's voice, Hui Yudi was surprised and happy. She couldn't wait to wipe her tears and quickly picked up the phone like Lin Yi did before. She stammered, Lin Yi is in trouble. Suddenly hearing a woman's voice, Han Jingjing was immediately stunned. She couldn't help but ask in surprise, Who are you? I'm Hui Yudi. I'm a disciple of the East Continent's Qinjiao Academy. Hui Yudi hurriedly explained, before sobbing and begging for help. Lin Yi's stomach has been pierced by someone, he's about to die. Quickly think of a way to save him, I'm begging you. What? Big brother Lin Yi is about to die? Han Jingjing suddenly turned pale with fright. She felt a little dizzy for a moment and almost fainted on the spot. She finally steadied herself and said, Quickly tell me in detail. How did Big brother Lin Yi get injured? At this time, no one cared about who was on the other side of the phone, whether it was Hui Yudi or Han Jingjing. The only thought in their minds was to save Lin Yi. After Lin Yi finished talking to you, he went in to beat up that rich man. I don't know what martial arts he used, but after a moment of confusion, I saw a bolt of lightning strike that rich man's body. That rich man was electrocuted until he was half dead. But the other person took the rich man's divine weapon and sneak attacked Lin Yi, punching a big hole in Lin Yi's stomach. Lin Yi is about to die now, Hui Yudi said incoherently. Although the other party's words were very messy, and it was hard to understand what was going on. But Han Jingjing still understood a little, and that was the injury on Lin Yi's stomach. It was caused by the laser cannon. Listen to me, don't be anxious. Now carefully check Big Brother Lin Yi's pulse and breath, then tell me what's the situation. Han Jingjing was unexpectedly calm. Even after she said this, she couldn't help but feel surprised. Oh, okay. Influenced by Han Jingjing, Hui Yudi finally calmed down a little. She held her breath and checked Lin Yi's pulse and breath, then said with half surprise and half apprehension, "There is, but it's very weak. I don't know how much longer he can last. Phew. That's good." Han Jingjing heard this and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. If it was any other normal person, even if it was a high-level cultivator with a strong vitality, if there was a big hole in his stomach like Lin Yi, he would have died a long time ago. But at this moment, Lin Yi still maintained a weak pulse and breath, which meant that he had entered a deep state of self-healing. This kind of thing was a fantasy in the eyes of others, but Han Jingjing had been with Lin Yi for a long time and had long understood the magical aspects of Lin. With her attitude of always carrying out scientific research, she even understood some aspects more thoroughly than Lin Yi himself, so she firmly believed that Lin Yi would definitely not die. Back then, her abdomen was also smashed by Little 11, but in the end, it was still healed by Lin Yi, so she was very confident in Lin. Calm down first, Big Brother Lin Yi will not die. Think of a way to bring Big Brother Lin Yi back first. Han Jingjing said decisively. Really? Hui Yudi heard this and was immediately overjoyed. During this period of time, she was already terrified and helpless, but after hearing Han Jingjing's words, her whole person immediately became excited. Really, Big Brother Lin Yi's vitality is not comparable to that of ordinary people. Even in a deep coma, he can still self-heal. According to your description, this is the situation now, so you don't have to worry too much. Big Brother Lin Yi will definitely not die. As long as you can bring him back safely, he will definitely be able to recover. Han Jingjing comforted her gently. Oh, that's good. Hui Yudi finally let out a real sigh of relief and said in her heart, "Thank you, if not for you, I really would have died here." Chapter 47:23. Well, I see. After saying that, Hui Yudi studied for a while and finally hung up the phone. Then she looked at Lin Yi on the ground and let out a sigh of relief. She was really anxious just now, but now after listening to Han Jingjing's judgment, her heart that was hanging in midair finally fell to the ground. Although it was inevitable that she was a little worried, she was finally not as worried as before. After adjusting her breathing, Hui Yudi immediately tried to carry Lin Yi on her back. This place would be closed in 5 days, and then the entire Sky Thunder Matrix outside would be reset. Without Lin Yi leading the way, she couldn't even get out, so she had to leave as soon as possible. After exiting the 5 Thunder Retribution Archway, Hui Yudi carried Lin Yi on her back and walked out. She still couldn't wander around the Stonehenge outside. Fortunately, she remembered the route when she followed Lin Yi in, so she could get out smoothly. Earlier, Su Lingchong had already carried Kong Ming Ming and rushed out. He was really afraid that Hui Yudi would chase after them like crazy, so he didn't stop at all along the way. Even if he saw some treasures of heaven and earth, he directly ignored them. After all, with the Thunder Xian Ratan in hand, all the other treasures of heaven and earth here were relatively unimportant. The only thing Su Lingchong wanted to do now was to return to West Island as soon as possible, in case of unexpected troubles. After running for his life day and night, Su Lingchong's travel-worn figure appeared at the entrance of the 10,000-year Grand Canyon 5 days later, and behind him was Kong Ming Ming, who was half dead, like a dead dog. Anyway, his whole body was protected by the intelligent armor, so it was not a big problem for him to do anything. Compared with carrying him on his shoulder, it was obviously easier to drag him. Su Lingchong didn't feel sorry for this kind of underling. It was already very kind of him to drag him all the way back. Out of the 10,000-year Grand Canyon was the oasis before. Without any hesitation, Su Lingchong dragged Kong Ming Ming and walked out. At this moment, a group of people suddenly blocked the way. It was the scar-faced man and his gang. The reason Scarface and his gang were blocking this place was naturally to plunder the loot from the trial takers that were leaving this place. They were obviously not good people. Although they had claimed that they would only take half, this was basically empty talk. Of all the trial takers that had fallen into their hands, it would already be a blessing to their ancestors if they could keep a 10th or 20% of them. If it wasn't for the fact that they were driven to desperation, Scarface and the others didn't even intend to leave 10% of the loot to these cultivators. However, they were all high-level cultivators above the gold core stage, and most of them were nascent soul stage experts. If they really wanted to fight with their lives on the line, they wouldn't be easy to deal with. So, Scarface could only give them some hope so that they wouldn't have to fight to the death. Scarface and the others were instantly shocked when they saw Su Lingchong's figure from afar, and all of them hurriedly retreated by themselves. They didn't have the slightest ferocious appearance from before, and instead, all of them smiled obsequiously as they were deeply afraid of incurring the slightest displeasure. It couldn't be helped. The scene of Kong Xiaoming killing their second head in one shot was still fresh in their minds. It wasn't just Kong Xiaoming. Even Su Lingchong's appearance was firmly engraved in their minds. This kind of ferocious demon was truly not to be provoked. In their line of work, to put it bluntly, they bullied the weak and feared the strong. It wasn't a big problem to be a little greedy and a little stupid, but there was a rule of survival that had to be firmly remembered. If you met someone you couldn't afford to provoke, you must hide as far away as possible. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know how you died. Boss, this seems a little strange. Why is that armored man being dragged on the ground? Is he dead or unconscious? The underling couldn't help but ask. That's right. Could it be that they encountered some powerful monster? Scarface was also puzzled. Boss, the underling made a throat-cutting gesture. Don't be anxious. Let's wait and see first. Scarface pinched his chin and cautiously shook his head. Although the person he feared the most, Kong Ming Ming, seemed to be on the verge of death, he couldn't figure out the details of the remaining person. However, he couldn't figure out the background of the remaining person. Although he looked like an ordinary nascent soul stage expert, what if he wasn't easy to deal with? As the saying goes, it's better to be safe than sorry. Anyway, there were many other fat sheep that could be slaughtered. Scarface didn't particularly care about the little bit of profit on the other party. So before he figured out the details, he didn't want to take risks. Since Scarface had spoken so, the other underlings naturally didn't dare to act rashly. They all retreated to the side with fear. While talking, Su Lingchong had already dragged Kong Ming Ming to a distance of 20 feet. Scarface's eyes suddenly lit up. He found a small piece of strangely shaped vine on the back of the other party's bag. There were electric arcs flashing from time to time. Thunder Xian Vine. Scarface was obviously a master who knew his stuff. Although he was already a profound ascension stage master and theoretically didn't need the Thunder Xian pill to deal with the Thunder Tribulation, this didn't hinder his love for good things. Especially the Thunder Xian Vine, which was a rare treasure in the world. After being shocked, Scarface carefully looked at it again. Because the other party only revealed a small tip of the iceberg, he couldn't see whether it was mature or not. But at least one thing was certain, this thing was definitely the Thunder Xian Vine. Scarface swallowed greedily. He really didn't want to let go of such a treasure. After all, the value of the Thunder Xian Vine alone was enough to cover all the other profits. But he didn't want to take risks because of this. What if the remaining kid was also not someone to be trifled with? Boss, that kid has really fainted. Let's do it. At this time, a subordinate with a full head of braids jumped out. Well, you guys go. Scarface nodded immediately, but he stepped back quietly. In this way, even if something went wrong, he could stay out of it. After obtaining Scarface's approval, the braided man immediately took the lead and rushed forward excitedly. He blocked Su Lingchong's path in a carefree manner and said, "Hand over all the heavenly treasures on you, and I can make the decision to let you live." Otherwise he get lost. Su Lingchong just wanted to return to West Island. He was not in the mood to waste time with this kind of subordinate. He immediately scolded with a cold face. Have you forgotten what happened last time? You have no memory, you dog. Oh, you're so arrogant. Seeing this, the man with braids laughed instead of being angry. He pointed at Kong Ming Ming on the ground like a dead dog and said, "Don't play dumb with me. This armored man is half dead and can't even protect himself. You want to scare people with him? Do you really think that I don't have a brain?" Chapter 47-24. As expected of a brainless dog. Su Lingchong snorted coldly. Seeing that the other party was reaching out to grab his backpack, he immediately set up the laser cannon and fired without saying a word. The braided man was still sneering just a moment ago, but a laser flashed and the next moment, his entire head evaporated into thin air. The scene was so strange and bloody that even Scarface, who was a mountain king who killed and set fires as if it was his daily routine, was dumbfounded. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and couldn't say a word for a long time. Even though Scarface was already fearful before, he definitely didn't think that this kid would be so terrifying. It seemed that he was not any weaker than the armored man. How could he know that this had nothing to do with strength? Even if it was just an ordinary child, as long as he knew how to operate the laser cannon, he could kill people like grass. Who else? Su Lingchong aimed the laser cannon at the crowd with an unfriendly expression. Immediately, the group of people were scared and ran away like rats. The scene was really chaotic. Seeing that Su Lingchong seemed to be staring at him, Scarface immediately broke out in a cold sweat. In a moment of desperation, he quickly jumped out and shouted, "You bunch of blind idiots, you even dare to provoke such a great expert, you deserve to die. Didn't I already tell you to treat these two masters well? Are your brains filled with shit? You can't even remember such an important thing." Finished speaking, Scarface turned his head with a flattering smile and cautiously said to Su Lingchong, "Young hero, you're a great person and don't hold grudges against these lowly people. It's all my fault for not disciplining them strictly, allowing these disappointing idiots to cause trouble for you. How about I find a place for you to rest your feet? I have top-notch spirit tea, treat it as an apology." Scarface's change of expression stunned Su Lingchong. Since the other party took the initiative to admit defeat, he naturally wouldn't kill them. After all, the other party was a true early-stage profound ascension expert. Even if he had a powerful weapon like the laser cannon, he didn't have an intelligent armor to protect his body. Facing such a strong enemy, his heart still trembled. Otherwise, Su Lingchong wouldn't have been scared away by Hui Yudi, who was a nascent soul-perfected expert. Now that he was able to scare Scarface, it was already the best result for him. "No need, I'm still in a hurry." Su Lingchong immediately refused. He was afraid that the other party would notice something, so he didn't dare to stay in such a place for long. After saying that, he directly dragged Kong Ming Ming forward. Sure, please." Scarface hurriedly stepped aside. Even his subordinates consciously opened up a path for them. They respectfully watched as Su Lingchong and Scarface left. Su Lingchong dragged Kong Ming Ming towards the teleportation formation without stopping. On the other hand, Hui Yudi was on the other side. He was also carrying the dying Lin Yi on his back, but he was very careful along the way. He had to be cautious with every step he took. He could only try his best to choose the path he took when he came, so as to reduce the risk as much as possible. However, in this way, her speed would be much slower. After all, she was not like Su Lingchong, who had a super-killing weapon like the laser cannon. If she encountered anything on the way, she could just blast it and be done with it. Along the way, if there was even the slightest sign of trouble, they would be alerted. Hui Yudi was trembling with fear as if she was treading on thin ice. She couldn't be blamed for being timid. The key was that Lin Yi's current state was too dangerous. He really couldn't stand any more tossing and turning. It only took Su Lingchong 5 days to drag Kong Ming Ming to the exit of the canyon, but it took Hui Yudi 15 days. Whether it was the trial takers or the spirit beasts, they were all targets that she had to try her best to avoid. So she took a lot of detours on the way, and from time to time, she had to hide for a long time. Her speed was really not fast. 10 days had passed before this, and now it took another 15 days to return. So when Hui Yudi carried Lin Yi out of the 10,000 Years Grand Canyon, it was already not far from the deadline of 1 month. At this time, most of the trial takers should have returned to West Island. The rest were either masters in the peak of the nascent soul realm who could stay for a few more days, or they had missed the deadline. Like Scarface's group, they were trapped here and couldn't get out. There was no third kind of people. Hui Yudi carried Lin Yi on her back and appeared at the exit of the canyon. In front of them was the oasis. At this time, Scarface's group still hadn't dispersed. Instead, his group of people had grown stronger. It turned out that at this moment, not only Scarface's original group of people, but also some trial takers who couldn't get out this time, were forced to choose to be under his command and become one of his men. In the crowd, Scarface said to one of his subordinates in the peak of the nascent soul realm, "Hanshin, you are now at the last bottleneck of the peak of the nascent soul realm. If you continue to stay here, you will follow in my footsteps and be completely trapped in this damn place. So you should take this opportunity to leave quickly. You have followed me for so long and done a lot of things for me. Even if you don't have any credit, you have worked hard. Take the things with you as a farewell gift from me." "Thank you, boss." The master in the peak of the nascent soul realm, called Hanshin, was grateful on the spot. "Well, all of you listen to me. As long as you follow my brothers, I will never let you suffer. Hanshin is your example." Scarface took the opportunity to win over everyone. Sure enough, everyone's mood suddenly rose, especially the new subordinates. They were originally dejected and disheartened, but after seeing this scene, they all cheered up. It had to be said that this Scarface was really good at winning people's hearts. With Han Chin as an example in front of them, everyone would only be more loyal to him. After all, as long as they followed him with peace of mind, even if they couldn't get out for the time being, when they reached the bottleneck of the peak of the nascent soul realm, they could go out like Han Chin. Only when there was hope would there be motivation. For everyone, there was no doubt that this was the best ending. So everyone was willing to follow him, and Scarface's method could be said to be tried and tested. Every trial could be replenished with a batch of fresh blood, so that his team continued to grow, becoming a real local bully here. Hui Yudi looked at this scene from afar. She saw through Scarface's intentions at a glance. The reason why he wanted to send away his little brother who had reached the bottleneck of the nascent soul realm was not only to win over people's hearts, but the most important reason was that Scarface didn't want to see a second profound ascending stage master. In this place, he was the only profound ascending stage master. With his strength, he was naturally worthy of being the local tyrant. But if there was a second profound ascending stage master, then his position would not be stable. As the saying goes, one mountain cannot accommodate two tigers. It might be a situation of life and death. Sending people away could not only eliminate the threat, but also gain a good reputation. It had to be said that this Scarface was a rare smart person. Chapter 47-25. However, none of this had anything to do with her. Hui Yudi gritted her teeth and took advantage of the fact that everyone was cheering and their attention was not on this side. She carried Lin Yi on her back and carefully rushed over. She did not have the strength and confidence to face the scarred man. Once she was stopped by these people, the consequences would be unimaginable. Hui Yudi's movement technique was fast and light, and the strength of the peak of the Yuanying stage was not as good as the scarred man. At this moment, the scarred man was busy winning over the hearts of the people and had no time to care about this side. This was the perfect opportunity. Quietly, seeing that she was about to pass, Hui Yudi couldn't help but start to feel a little lucky. Suddenly, a majestic figure appeared in front of her. He was also a peak of the Yuanying stage master. In terms of momentum, he was even stronger than Hui Yudi. It was Han Chin who was set as a role model by the scarred man in public. Hui Yudi's face suddenly changed. Because of this Han Chin, the eyes of the others quickly turned over. One by one, they looked at Hui Yudi and Lin Yi on her back with a surprised expression. Hui Yudi's heart was beating wildly. This time it's over. Han Chin looked up and down at Hui Yudi's graceful figure and salivated. Especially when he found that Lin Yi's abdomen was pierced with a fatal blood hole, his mind suddenly became active. If Lin Yi, this ruthless person, was alive, then even if he had 10,000 guts, he would never dare to touch a single hair of Hui Yudi. But now it was different. This ruthless person was dead. Even if he was not dead, he was not far from death. What was there to be afraid of? Hee, little girl looks pretty good. Do you want to play with Big Brother? Han Chen had a lascivious smile on his face as he reached out to touch Hui Yudi's face. After being trapped in this place for so many years, he was already burning with lust. Now that he could have some fun before leaving, this was simply a gift from the heavens. However, before he could reach out his hand, a strong airflow suddenly surged beside him and the scarred man's figure appeared beside him. Without saying a word, he slapped him away. He was dizzy and couldn't get up for a long time. Hui Yudi was shocked. She was just about to make a move. If the opponent was just a full-circle original infant cultivator, with her strength, she would not lose. No matter what, she was a genius disciple of the East Continent's Morning Pride Academy, and her methods were far stronger than those of the same level. But now, it was suddenly changed to Scarface, a peak early-stage profound ascending expert. Hui Yudi's heart instantly sank to the bottom. How could she beat him? Unexpectedly, the scarred man didn't do anything to her. Instead, he smiled apologetically. No matter how one looked at it, his expression was so flattering that Hui Yudi was stunned. Oh, boss. Why did you? Han Chen felt dizzy from the slap. He looked at Scarface, feeling wronged and speechless. If you want to steal a woman, just say it. You're the boss. Do you think I dare to not let you have her? Do you have to hit me directly? Scarface rushed over and grabbed him by the collar. He gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "You dare to touch this woman? If you want to court death, wait until you get out. I won't stop you, but don't drag me down with you. Isn't that ruthless man already dead? What's there to be afraid of?" Han Chen curled his lips disapprovingly. Are you fucking stupid? Have you forgotten the lesson of the armored man? How many days has it been? Scarface spat and said resentfully, didn't the armored man also fall down? But the person beside him is also a ruthless man that none of us can afford to offend. You see, this one is lying on the ground, but how do you know what kind of person she is? What if birds of a feather flock together and she's also a ruthless man who hides his strength? Hearing Scarface's analysis, Han Chen broke out in a cold sweat. Thinking about it carefully, it did seem to make sense. He was almost blinded by lust and made a big mistake. People who are about to go out, don't fail at the last moment. If you cause trouble at this time, I won't let you go. Scarface said sternly. Boss, don't worry. I will definitely not cause trouble for you. Definitely not. Han Chen nodded repeatedly and promised. Under Hui Yudi's strange gaze, Scarface continued to lecture his little brother. After Scarface finished lecturing his little brother, he smiled apologetically and forced out a smile that he thought was friendly. Miss, are you preparing to go back? Hui Yudi nodded. Just now, although they spoke softly, she still heard it. So at this moment, her heart was at ease. She secretly laughed and was no longer nervous. Oh, do you want me to have someone send you? Scarface took the initiative to be attentive. No need. Hui Yudi said with a cold face, then ignored everyone and quickly left with Lin Yi on her back. After the oasis, the rest of the journey was a monotonous desert. Previously, she felt that it was extremely boring, but for Hui Yudi at this time, it couldn't be better. Because no matter how boring it was much better than being surrounded by danger. Not to mention that there was not much time left, and they couldn't afford to waste any more time. Time passed quickly. 3 days later, Hui Yudi finally arrived at the teleportation formation. At this time, there were already several trial takers waiting in line. Those who rushed to go out at this time were naturally masters at the peak of Yuanying realm. When everyone saw Hui Yudi and the dying Lin Yi on her back, they didn't have much reaction except for being surprised. After all, there were 2 masters from West Island here to maintain order. If you wanted to make trouble in this place, you had to pay the price. What's more, Hui Yudi herself was also a master at the peak of Yuanying realm. If they really fought to the death, they might not be able to gain any advantage. Even if they could, they would inevitably be seriously injured because of this, and they couldn't recover in a short time. Then they wouldn't even be able to go out. Huiyuti carried Lin Yi on her back and quietly waited in line behind the crowd. After the people in front of her left one by one, Huiyuti was about to step into the teleportation formation, but she was stopped by a master from West Island. Only one person can go in. If you take him, you can't go by yourself. The master from West Island explained faintly. What? Huiyuti was shocked when she heard that. Before the trial of West Island began, she vaguely heard Yen Xinlan mention this, but she didn't take it to heart at that time. She didn't expect that it would become a fatal obstacle now. This is decided by the teleportation formation. No one can change it. Even if you carry a dead person on your back, it doesn't matter. Only one person can go through at a time. Of course, there are no restrictions on the treasures of heaven and earth. The master from West Island looked at Huiyuti with some sympathy. Chapter 47:26. This woman worked so hard to carry the man who was obviously going to die back. She was really affectionate and loyal. If there was a way, they wouldn't mind making an exception for her. Unfortunately, this was not up to them. The teleportation formation was designed in this way. Even if the god of heaven came, it would be useless. Huiyuti suddenly frowned. It was not easy to get back to this place. She thought that she could take Lin Yi back to West Island and save herself from danger, but she didn't expect to be stuck at this last step. What should she do? In any case, she couldn't go back alone. Leaving Lin Yi here alone was tantamount to asking him to die. But they couldn't leave together, so she was in a dilemma. Hey, are you going to leave or not? We are still waiting in line. While Huiyuti was hesitating and in a dilemma, the people at the back of the line began to get impatient. They didn't care so much. They were in a hurry to go back. If it took too long and they couldn't go back, who could they blame? Then, let me think about it. Huiyuti had to step aside for a while and let the people at the back pass first. She found a clean place not far from the teleportation formation and settled Lin Yi down. Then she stayed by his side and frowned. Time passed little by little. Seeing that the trial testers who came back one after another were all teleported away, Huiyuti was still at her wits' end and couldn't come up with a feasible plan. Because of the presence of the masters from West Island, she was saved from the trouble of being harassed by other trial testers. Even Han Chen, who coveted her beauty, didn't dare to look at her when he passed by. But this didn't solve the problem. No matter how carefree she was, what was the use of being trapped here and unable to get out? 2 days later, it was a whole month. At this time, all the trial testers had left. Even those who stayed here knew that they couldn't leave, so they turned to the scarred man. At this moment, only Huiyuti and Lin Yi were left beside the teleportation formation. This is the deadline. Are you going to leave or not? If you don't leave, you really can't get out. This man is obviously going to die. There's no need for you to stay here and die with him. It seemed that the two masters of West Island were also ready to leave. After looking at each other as women, they couldn't bear to see her leave, so they came over and advised her softly. No, I won't leave him behind. I definitely won't. Huiyuti shook her head firmly. There are plenty of fish in the sea, and there are plenty of good men in the world. Why do you have to hang yourself on a tree? One of the West Island masters sighed helplessly. West Island was a feminist society, and it was not as particular as other places. It was simply unreasonable for a woman to commit suicide for a man who was obviously going to die. A woman would commit suicide for a man. That's right, little sister, you're a peak nascent soul cultivator, right? Even if you go all out, the power you can muster will only be enough to activate the array formation now. It will be useless if you delay it for another day. You can only wait until the next trial begins. But you should be very clear about the situation in this place. As a girl, it's simply wishful thinking if you want to wait for the next trial test in peace. Those people will definitely target you. Another master from the West Island tried to persuade her. The existence of people like the scarred man was never a secret, but the top management of West Island never intended to deal with him. Instead, they were quite indulgent. To put it bluntly, since this was the trial place, people like the scarred man were like other monsters and beasts. They were all stepping stones for the trial takers, so they were allowed to do whatever they wanted. Huiyuti still shook her head. Suddenly, she rolled her eyes and said, "Two sisters. If I make a move with all my strength and try to teleport him out first, I wonder if it will work?" This was the only way she could come up with after thinking about it for the past 2 days. Although she also knew that it might not be so easy, in case it was really feasible. Anyway, there was no one else waiting in line now. She believed that the 2 masters of West Island should be able to give her a clear answer. In that case, you can't get out by yourself. Now it's been a month. If you want to start the transmission formation, you have to use your strongest move. You can't hold back at all. Only in this way can you barely succeed. In fact, even so, you may not be able to get out. This is not a joke. The master of West Island warned him in a stern voice. Yes, 1 month is the limit of a master in the peak of Yuaning realm. You can't have any more losses. Another master of West Island also shook his head and added, "Besides, if you want to put him into the transmission formation and stand outside to start the transmission, although it's not completely impossible, it's very difficult, because the eye of the transmission formation is hidden inside. If there is no special move, you can't reach it from the outside at all. You have to think about it clearly." This. Huiyuti gritted her teeth and thought for a while. No matter whether it would work or not, she should try her best to see if she could send Lin Yi out first. But in this way, no matter whether Lin Yi could be successfully transmitted out in the end or not, she would definitely not be able to get out. This was equivalent to using her own fate as a bet to fight for a chance for Lin. As for the difficulty that the 2 masters of West Island said, Huiyuti didn't take it too seriously. After all, she was a genius disciple of East Continent's Morning Pride Academy. She still had this kind of means. "You'd better come with us. This kind of attempt is completely meaningless. No matter what, one of you has to stay. If you choose him, not to mention the fact that you may not succeed, even if you really succeed with his dying state, I guess he can't bear the burden of the transmission, and maybe he'll die even faster." Seeing that the time was almost up, the 2 masters of West Island finally persuaded her. Huiyuti was suddenly shocked when she heard this. If they hadn't reminded her, she would have forgotten this point. The transmission process was a huge burden on the body. For cultivators, it naturally didn't matter in normal times, but in the current state of Lin Yi, what they said was really not an alarmist. Moreover, even if Lin Yi could get through it now, if there was no one to care about him when he arrived at West Island, even if there was only a little gap in the middle, there might be unexpected trouble. What if Kaizi and his helpers were waiting at the door of the transmission formation on the opposite side, waiting for a chance to kill him? In this way, it was too risky to send Lin Yi out alone, and obviously it was not a wise choice. But if Huiyuti was asked to go alone, she would never agree. Chapter 47:27. There was no reason. This was almost her instinctive thought. In any case, she must guard Lin. As for the serious consequences of staying here, Huiyuti didn't think much about it at all. Anyway, it was useless to think too much at this time. "You're not leaving? Then you really can't leave." The 2 masters suddenly looked at each other and couldn't help but be shocked. "If you stay here, I don't know how long you'll have to wait. It's unknown when the next trial will start. You should know that our West Island trial doesn't open regularly. If you're lucky, it may only open once a year. If you're unlucky, it may open for decades or even hundreds of years. It depends on the week period of the formation." I understand what you 2 sisters said, but I can't leave him here alone. I appreciate your kindness, but you don't need to persuade me anymore," Huiyuti said firmly. The 2 masters looked at each other, and their faces were moved. Although they felt sorry for Huiyuti, such an affectionate and righteous woman deserved everyone's respect. Since the other party had made up her mind, it was futile for them to persuade her. After all, they didn't know each other. It was already very good that they could do this. "Well, but you have to be careful when you stay here. Find a hidden place nearby to hide. If there's nothing else, it's best not to go inside again. I believe you know what those guys are like, not to mention they have profound ascending stage masters. You can't beat them." The 2 masters sighed. They couldn't continue to waste time here, so they could only give this last kind reminder. "Thank you, 2 sisters." Huiyuti nodded. After watching the two masters leave, she quietly stayed by Lin Yi's side, looking at him blankly. No one knew what she was thinking in her mind. At the same time, on the other side, in the side courtyard of the West Island's palace, all the challengers who came out one after another had gathered in the open space next to it. It was bustling and crowded. Although the trial of West Island itself didn't stipulate the so-called trial time, today was the deadline of 1 month. In terms of objective conditions, this was already the actual deadline of the trial. If they didn't come out after today, it meant that they couldn't come out at all. At this moment, in order to congratulate the successful return of the trial takers, in order to show their solemnity, this time, it wasn't West Island's Deputy Island Master Yen Xinlan who presided over the overall situation, but West Island's Island Master herself, Ning Shangling. Compared to the previous birthday banquet, Ning Shangling was clearly much closer to the crowd this time. With a friendly smile on her face, she leisurely walked among the crowd and waved to everyone from time to time. Wherever Ning Shangling passed, the crowd would burst into an uproar. To be able to come into contact with this beautiful island lord, who had always been high and mighty, at such a close distance, all the trial takers felt genuinely flattered. Of course, even if they had some dirty thoughts in their hearts, they would never dare to show it in this place. Ning Shangling was like an empress in West Island. If anyone dared to blaspheme it, no matter how strong he was, he couldn't walk out of West Island alive. Behind the beautiful Ning Shangling was Ning Xuefei, who was as pure as a fairy. According to the rules, the princess of West Island could not easily show her face in public, but the trial of West Island this time was a little special, and it was related to her marriage. Her future husband was very likely to be among this group of trial takers, so it was reasonable for her to follow her mother to appease the crowd. As Ning Xuefei's best friends, Shanghai Laner and Han Jingjing naturally stayed by her side. At this time, the three women were not in the mood to watch the fun, and they frequently looked at the exit of the transmission formation. Han Jingjing had already told Ning Xuefei and Shanghai Laner that Lin Yi was seriously injured and in a coma. Although they knew that someone was taking care of him, they still couldn't help but worry and be nervous. If Ning Shangling hadn't forbidden them, the three of them would have run to the transmission formation to wait for him. If they could, they even wished they could be transmitted in. Time went by bit. Seeing that the trial takers hadn't come out for a long time, the three women couldn't help but become more and more anxious. Was there any problem? After all, the three of them had investigated the matter of the teleportation circle. While it wasn't entirely impossible to teleport an unconscious Lin Yi over, it was still an extremely difficult task. At this point in time, one could only imagine the price the enemy had to pay. There were two choices, either to keep herself or to keep Lin Yi. If it were the three of them, they would definitely sacrifice themselves to transmit Lin Yi out without hesitation. But the other party was just a strange woman whom they had just met. Would she do that? No one knew the answer, so they could only wait. However, under the expectation of the three women, Lin Yi's figure didn't appear for a long time. Until the two guards of West Island came back, Lin Yi still didn't come out. Han Jingjing and Shanghai Laner looked at each other, and their faces suddenly became a little pale. Ning Xuefei almost fainted on the spot at this moment. This wasn't just related to Lin Yi's safety, it was also related to her marriage. She had practically pinned all her hopes on Lin Yi, and the blow she suffered at this moment was so heavy that she couldn't bear it. There's no one inside? At this moment, a woman suddenly rushed up and hurriedly asked the two guards of West Island who had just walked out of the transmission formation. This person was the East Continent's Morning Pride Academy's vice headmaster, Lu Ziyu. As the leader of the East Continent Academy this time, Lu Ziyu's every action represented the East Continent Academy. So, she had always spoken appropriately and had never lost her composure as she did now. At this moment, her expression was extremely ugly, even more so than Ning Xuefei and the other two women. Because not only had Lin Yi not come out, her precious disciple, Hui Yudi, had also not come out. To her, Hui Yudi was not only the most important personal disciple, but in a sense, she was also like a mother and daughter. She had painstakingly brought her up from infancy, and this kind of relationship was far from that of an ordinary master-disciple relationship. The two guards of West Island were instantly shocked and took a closer look at Lu Ziyu. Knowing that she was a good friend of Island Master Ning Shangling, they didn't dare to slight her and immediately replied respectfully, "There's a woman beside the transmission formation, and a man whose status is unknown. However, like the rest of the people, they probably won't be able to come out." Chapter 47:28. So that affectionate girl was actually Lu Ziyu's personal disciple. The two West Island guards instantly came to a realization and then explained, that girl could have come out herself, but in order to accompany the man whose life or death is unknown, she took the initiative to give up this opportunity. She has already made up her mind. The two of us tried to persuade her for a long time, but it was useless. What? I would stay behind for a man? Lu Ziyu couldn't help but frown, his gaze sweeping across the crowd, finally landing on Ren Zhongyuan, Yi Xiaotian, and Yao Jieli. Lu Ziyu understood this precious disciple of his very well. Although this girl was very powerful, and she wasn't young in terms of age, she had spent most of her time in seclusion training these past few years, and her temperament was even purer than some ordinary girls. In Morning Pride Academy, with Hui Yudi's status, ordinary disciples wouldn't dare to easily strike up a conversation with her, and among all the disciples of the academy who had come to the West Island this time, the only ones who could really talk to her were Ren Zhongyuan and the other two, especially Ren Zhongyuan, who had been trying to pursue Hui Yudi all these years. If it was said that during this training, the relationship between the two of them had progressed, and Hui Yudi had chosen to stay behind for Ren Zhongyuan's sake, Lu Ziyu could more or less understand it. But now that Ren Zhongyuan had already returned, who would she be guarding? Lu Ziyu couldn't help but start to suspect. Could it be that the girl these two West Island guards were talking about was actually not his own disciple Hui Yudi, but someone else? You're saying that Sister Hui Yudi took the initiative to stay behind in order to take care of Brother Linny? Han Jingjing suddenly came up at this moment and couldn't wait to confirm with the West Island guards. The two West Island guards who had just come out looked at each other. They were very familiar with Han Jingjing, who had lived here for a few years, and said with some uncertainty, "We also don't know if that man and woman are the Lin Yi and Hui Yudi you mentioned. We only know that the man's injuries are very serious, and there's a very large hole in his stomach. It looks like he won't be able to survive." "There's no mistake, that's Brother Lin," Han Jingjing confirmed, and then winked at Ning Xuefei and Shangguan Lan'er, who were anxious next to her. He gestured for them to relax a little. Since Hui Yudi didn't hesitate to throw her life away and insisted on staying inside to accompany Lin Yi, it proved that Lin Yi wasn't dead yet. Otherwise, what was the point of her guarding inside? From Han Jingjing's point of view, as long as her big brother Lin Yi wasn't dead, then there must be a way to get out. This kind of thing definitely wouldn't be a problem for big brother Lin Yi. When Lu Ziyu heard Han Jingjing's words, she couldn't help but frown. Although she didn't know how Han Jingjing could be so sure, judging from her appearance. It was as if that woman was indeed his precious disciple. The fact that Hui Yudi was safe and sound made her heave a sigh of relief. It was just that her precious disciple had actually stayed behind for a man. Moreover, it was a man that she had never met before. This matter was truly strange. What? Brother Ling is heavily injured and won't be able to survive? How is this possible? Qi Wenhan, who was not far away, immediately turned pale with fright when he heard this. He and Xia Luoluo were not greedy for heavenly treasures, and this trial was more like an outing for the two of them. Therefore, after they had harvested something, they had left early. These past few days, they had been waiting to reunite with Lin Yi. But in the end he received this grievous news. Qi Wenhan's vision darkened, and he nearly fainted. Fortunately, Xia Luoluo supported him from the side, and he barely managed to stabilize himself. "Wenhan, don't be anxious. With Brother Ling's abilities, he might not necessarily die. Let's figure this out first." Xia Luoluo comforted softly. She had a good impression of Lin Yi, especially since he was Qi Wenhan's big backer. If something really happened this time, then the matter between her and Qi Wenhan would inevitably have another variable. At this moment, within the crowd, Ren Zhongyuan and the others were also paying close attention to the movement of the teleportation array. Especially Ren Zhongyuan. Like Lu Ziyu, he had always been anticipating Hui Yudi's figure, but unfortunately, the person he loved had not appeared even after a long time. Now, after hearing these words, Ren Zhongyuan's heart was instantly filled with mixed feelings. Lin Yi was about to die, and this was considered good news to him. Basically, any man who got close to Hui Yudi was someone who deserved to die in his eyes. However, the pure and clean goddess in his heart, Hui Yudi, was actually willing to risk her life to accompany this fellow who was about to die. How could Ren Zhongyuan, as her pursuer, endure this? At the same time, the expressions of the other two people in the crowd were somewhat complicated. These two people were the ones who had caused Lin Yi's fatal injuries, Su Lingchong and Kong Mingming. After these few days of recuperation, Kong Mingming had already completely recovered. After all, Lin Yi had only just grasped the power of lightning, and its power was really limited. Kong Mingming was only in a more miserable state when he was electrocuted. Relying on the tenacious vitality of a high-level cultivator, he was already able to move freely after a few days. Otherwise, he would not have been able to teleport back. Now that they heard the news that Lin Yi was about to die, Su Lingchong and Kong Mingming could not help but look at each other. In reality, from the way they saw it, Lin Yi was definitely going to die. No matter who it was, they would not be able to survive after having such a big hole in their stomach. Lin Yi was still able to struggle at death's door. It could only be said that this fellow's vitality was really terrifyingly tenacious. But even so, in their eyes, Lin Yi was already a dead man. Getting rid of such a sworn enemy was, of course, a great thing for them. But the problem was, how could they explain this to their superiors? Before this, because Su Lingchong was afraid of being blamed by his superiors, he did not dare to say it was so serious when he wrote the action report. He only briefly mentioned that they had injured Lin Yi, and that Lin Yi could not recover in a short period of time. He might not be able to come out for the time being, and it was estimated that he would be trapped in the trial ground for the next few years. When the mysterious man received his report, he saw that Lin Yi was only temporarily trapped, so he did not say much. But now this matter was exposed in public, and now everyone knew about it. This matter was about to be exposed. Headache. At this moment, Su Lingchong and Kong Mingming both had a headache and did not know what to say. Killing Lin Yi was already a violation of their superiors' strict orders, and now they had to add a felony of deceiving their superiors. When the mysterious man found out, he would definitely be furious. At that time, there might be a cruel and inhumane punishment. What should they do? On the other side, after hearing the conversation between the two guards of West Island and Han Jingjing, two powerful experts with cold auras also showed a shocked expression. These two were the top figures in the younger generation of North Island. One was Ram Jie, and the other was Lan Tiefu. Chapter 4729. But in the eyes of these two people, whether it was Ram Jie or Lan Tiefu, there were some hidden meanings that people couldn't quite understand. They didn't feel pity for the death of Lin Yi, a genius junior, but there seemed to be some inexplicable solemnity in their eyes. Except for these people, the rest of the people who heard the words more or less stirred up, but they didn't care about it. After all, whether it was Lin Yi or Hui Yudi, they had nothing to do with these people, and they didn't gather here for these two people. For them, it didn't matter whether Lin Yi died or not. They only cared about one thing, which was who could laugh to the end in this West Island trial and finally become the son-in-law of Ning Shangling, the island owner of West Island. Today was the objective deadline of the trial, and it was also the time to check the harvest of all the trial takers. If everything went well, it was likely that the result would be out within today, so Ning Shangling showed up in person. But now that everything had happened so suddenly, Ning Xuefei, who was the main character, had suffered a huge blow. Her face was pale, and she could not even stand properly. She had to rely on Han Jingjing and Shangguan Lan'er to support her to maintain her balance. As for Lu Ziyu, the leader of the East Continent Academy, who was an important guest, he also had a worried look on his face. He was obviously not in the right state. In this case, it was obviously not appropriate to continue to operate according to the original plan. Ning Shangling pondered for a moment and changed her mind, then she ordered Yan Xinlan, the deputy island owner, to come forward and announce, "Everyone, please take out the trophies you got in this trial. We have special staff to register them. After that, you can go back and have a rest." We will choose a day to invite guests to judge. As for the specific follow-up, please go back and wait patiently for the news. Hearing this, everyone was suddenly disappointed. They all thought that the result would be out today, but they didn't expect that they still had to wait. For those trial takers who thought they had a chance to stand out, this waiting process was undoubtedly a kind of torture. However, since Yen Xinlan had already announced it in public, what was done could not be undone. It was useless for them to object. In fact, no one dared to object. At most, they just complained a little in private. When the disciples of West Island came to register their trophies, they left one after another. As soon as Su Lingchong and Kong Mingming returned to the room of the envoy's mansion in West Island, before they could sit down and take a breath, a bloody bat came to them. It carried the mysterious man's handwritten order. Regarding Lin Yi's matter, you must give us an explanation. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. The tone of the handwritten letter was extremely harsh. This time, it didn't even use code words. It could be seen that the mysterious man was really angry. Looking at the fierce handwriting, Su Lingchong and Kong Mingming's eyelids twitched violently. Although it was just a sentence of, bear the consequences, which did not seem too scary at first glance, it was the mysterious man who said it. Behind these 4 words, their life and death were directly decided. Su Lingchong and Kong Mingming had no doubt that if they couldn't give a reasonable reason and explanation this time, they would definitely be in big trouble. It was even possible that they would die because of it. What should we do? Hurry up and think of a way. Su Lingchong's voice was harsh, and at the same time he looked at Kong Mingming with an unkind look. If they couldn't find a decent reason, he was ready to take this guy as a scapegoat. Only in this way could he escape the disaster. Yes, child Su, don't worry. There will be a way. There must be a way. Kong Mingming was so scared that he quivered in his heart. Although he didn't have any great wisdom, he was never short of petty cleverness. Especially this kind of insidious and vicious thing, he was an expert. As soon as he saw Su Lingchong's eyes, he knew what this guy was thinking. You'd better come up with a way. Otherwise, if the higher-ups really investigate, one of us must die. It's up to you. Su Lingchong said coldly. Yes. Kong Mingming was so anxious that his forehead was full of sweat. Seeing that there was a hint of killing intent in the other party's eyes, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and said, I got it, child Su, I have an idea. What idea? Say it quickly. Su Lingchong urged hurriedly. Child Su, although Lin Yi's injury is very serious, he still hasn't died until now. This means that he most likely won't die. I know this guy very well. His vitality is very strong. In the past, this kind of situation happened several times, but he didn't die. It will definitely be the same this time. Besides, if he really can't make it, why is the girl still guarding him? Kong Mingming nervously licked his lips and analyzed carefully. This makes sense. Su Lingchong's eyes lit up when he heard that. As long as it proved that Lin Yi wouldn't die, the higher-ups should not be so persistent in this matter. Then, the 2 of them could also escape a disaster. Immediately, he nodded and said, Okay, I'll reply as you said. After the 2 of them sent out the letter, they stayed in the room and didn't go out, waiting for the mysterious person's reply anxiously. If they couldn't explain it in this way, they would really have to bear the consequences. After waiting for a long time in fear and trepidation, the 2 of them finally waited for the bloodbath. They couldn't wait to open the mysterious person's letter. There was only one sentence on it. For the sake of the Thunder Xian Vine, don't do it again. Su Lingchong and Kong Mingming looked at each other, then let out a long sigh of turbid air, sat on the ground like a deflated ball, and didn't move for a long time. This time, they were really scared, but fortunately, they escaped a disaster. They were fine here, but on the other side, Ning Xuefei directly fainted after returning to the island owner's temporary imperial residence. She was under too much pressure. Even if Han Jingjing had comforted her in a low voice, it didn't help. Previously, she could still hold on the way, but after returning to the room, she only felt dizzy and immediately fainted. This scene really gave Ning Shangling a big fright. She hurriedly carefully examined Ning Xuefei and found that there was nothing wrong with her body except a little fever. As long as she slept, she should get better. Only then did the island owner of West Island finally let out a sigh of relief. With her two best friends, Shanghai Laner and Han Jingjing, accompanying her, Ning Shangling had nothing to worry about. She immediately took her people out of the room. It was impossible for her to personally accompany Ning Xuefei. After all, as the island owner of West Island, there were still many things to do, such as comforting Lu Ziyu, who was also burning with anxiety. Staying at the bedside of Ning Xuefei, although Han Jingjing and Shanghai Laner were also very anxious, they were much better than Ning Xuefei. For them, as long as Lin Yi was alive, that was enough. Chapter 4730. She would feel that it was her fault that Lin Yi fell into this situation. If it weren't for her, Lin Yi wouldn't have gone to participate in the trial of West Island at all, and he wouldn't have been seriously injured like this. If it weren't for this, Ning Xuefei wouldn't have fainted. No one would be able to bear such a big thing, let alone a simple little girl like her. Waiting on the side, Han Jingjing whispered a few words to Shanghai Laner, then she took out her mobile phone and dialed a number. She couldn't help but feel a little nervous. She didn't know if she could still get through the phone. After she bought these two mobile phones, she installed solar charging panels. After all, in a place like Heavenstage Island, there was basically no other way to charge it except solar energy. Although she didn't have to worry too much about the power problem, if the weather on the trial land was bad and there was no sun for a long time, then it would be hard to say. Fortunately, after waiting for a while, the phone finally beeped, indicating that the phone was connected. Han Jingjing reluctantly breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at Han Jingjing's movements, Shanghai Laner, who was next to her, also pricked up her ears. Although she had learned about Lin Yi's condition from the two guards of West Island, both she and Han Jingjing wanted to confirm it with Hui Yudi in person. They waited patiently, but after a few seconds, Han Jingjing suddenly froze. "What's wrong?" Shanghai Laner thought that something had happened, so she quickly asked anxiously. She hung up on me," Han Jingjing said in a daze. Before she finished speaking, her mobile phone suddenly rang. She quickly picked it up and said, "Hello, is this Sister Hui Yudi? I'm Han Jingjing." "It's me." Hui Yudi's embarrassed voice came from the phone. It was a pure mistake just now. She only knew how to make a phone call, but she didn't know how to answer the phone. She was so excited that she hung up the phone, so she could only call back quickly. "Sister Hua, how is Brother Linny now?" Under the urging gaze of Shanghai Laner, Han Jingjing didn't have time to chat. She asked quickly. "His aura and pulse are almost the same as before. Although it's very weak, he can still barely maintain it. However, I don't know how long he can last like this," Hui Yudi said worriedly. Lin Yi's current condition couldn't be said to be good. He could only be said to be hanging by a thread. If he was in the secular world, he would be in a state of critical illness at all times. If he could endure it, everything would be fine. But if there was even the slightest mishap, he would immediately die. "Sister Hua, remember one thing. To Big Brother Linny, no change is the best news, so you must have faith in him," Han Jingjing encouraged her. "And I understand. Don't worry, I will take good care of him." Hui Yudi was obviously much calmer now. "Thank you, Big Sister Hua. If it weren't for you, we really wouldn't know what to do. It's all thanks to you accompanying Big Brother Lin. You must take care of yourselves. We will wait for your safe return in West Island." Han Jingjing was sincerely grateful. Apart from other things, Hui Yudi was willing to stay in the trial ground for Lin. This alone had already moved her very much. "Don't say that. I am willing to accompany him." Hui Yudi's voice suddenly became weak and inaudible. She didn't know why she suddenly had a feeling of a concubine meeting her legal wife at this time. Although she also knew that this thinking was very strange, she couldn't help thinking in this direction. She was even a little unable to extricate herself. The two talked for a few more words. In the end, she specially told Hui Yudi to take out her mobile phone to bask in the sun and charge it often. Only then did Han Jingjing hang up the phone and look at Laner next to her. They breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. "How is he?" At this time, Ning Xuefei suddenly woke up faintly. The first thing she said was to ask about Lin Yi's situation. "Feifei, don't worry. Big Brother Lin Yi is fine. He is recovering on his own, and Sister Hui Yudi is next to him. There will be no problem. Han Jingjing comforted her. Really? That's good, that's good. Ning Xuefei's face finally regained some color. After pausing for a moment, she suddenly reacted and asked, Hui Yudi is Deputy Dean Lu's disciple, right? She seems to have rarely left the East Continent. How did she know Lin Yi? Han Jingjing pouted and said, I also don't know about this. Haven't I been with you for the past 2 years, Fei Fei? As for what Big Brother Lin Yi has experienced, it was you guys who told me. That's not right. Little junior brother hasn't been to the East Continent for the past 2 years. I haven't heard him mention any girls at all. Shengguan Lan'er had the most say in this regard. After thinking for a while, her eyes suddenly lit up and she said, Jing Jing, do you remember that before the trial began, there was a girl with a veil who wanted to strike up a conversation with junior brother? Was that Hui Yudi? It can't be. Big Brother Lin Yi clearly rejected her at that time. She was rejected in public. As a girl, she can't possibly go and pester Big Brother Lin Yi, right? Han Jingjing shook her head. Who knows? Maybe something happened after she went in? Shanghai Laner said thoughtfully. No matter what, she sacrificed herself to stay with Lin Yi and never left him. We have to find a way to thank her. Although Ning Xuefei was weak at the moment, when she said this, she had a kind of bearing. It seemed that she had unconsciously regarded herself as Lin Yi's woman. What are you thanking her for? Big Sister Hui doesn't need us to thank her. If you really want to repay her, let little junior brother devote himself to her. Shanghai Laner sneered. Devote himself to her? Hearing this, Ning Xuefei and Han Jingjing were stunned. They were grateful, but they had never thought about this. You two are really stupid. Big Sister Hua and little junior brother met by chance. If she didn't fall in love with little junior brother, why would she sacrifice herself to accompany him? She is a pure girl. If this kind of thing is spread out, her reputation will be ruined. Of course, only junior brother can be responsible for it. Shengguan Lan'er analyzed seriously. Ning Xuefei and Han Jingjing looked at each other and finally closed their mouths after a long time. This was a little unexpected. However, Shanghai Laner's analysis was not unreasonable. Otherwise, they really couldn't think of any other reasonable reasons. Fei Fei, Jing Jing, congratulations, you will soon have another sister. Shengguan Lan'er said with a mischievous smile. Chapter 4731. Shanghai Laner suddenly blushed and couldn't speak. She wanted to deny it, but she didn't know why she was reluctant. Although she had never thought about this, she would never agree to marry another man without Lin Yi. Is there a better man than little junior brother in this world? Shengguan Lan'er seriously doubted it. Like Ning Xuefei, who didn't want to marry other men, she didn't want to be separated from her best friends. At this moment, she couldn't help but think shyly, my body has been seen by little junior brother. Does this mean that we're officially friends? Looking at Shanghai Laner's blushing face, Ning Xuefei and Han Jingjing suddenly laughed together. After all, they were all simple-minded girls. After such a scene, the previous gloomy clouds suddenly disappeared. The three women even began to discuss the problem of who was older and who was younger with great interest. On the other side, after Hui Yudi hung up the phone, she was not as carefree as the three of them. However, after listening to Han Jingjing's words of comfort, her heart finally felt a little more at ease. She no longer thought about it. She only wanted to protect Lin Yi by her side, looking forward to his gradual recovery. Lin Yi actually knew everything that Hui Yudi had done for him. Although he was seriously injured now, he couldn't even open his eyes, let alone speak. However, during the time when his injury was about to recover, he already had some consciousness. Feeling the gentle breath of Hui Yudi close at hand, Lin Yi was extremely moved at this moment. What Hui Yudi had done had far exceeded the kindness of temporary teammates. Let alone a union of interests, even good friends who had known each other for decades might not be able to do this for her. After all, Hui Yudi did this and she had sacrificed a lot. In order to accompany Lin Yi, she almost risked herself. She was simply risking her life to accompany him. She didn't even hesitate to risk her life, let alone a girl's reputation and integrity. Although Lin Yi was quite slow in the emotional aspect, he was not a fool. However, he wasn't a fool. At this moment, he finally understood that perhaps there were some unexplainable feelings between him and Huiyudi. In fact, they both knew why Huiyudi was willing to do this for him. After coming to Heavenly Island, Lin Yi didn't want to provoke more love debts. This was really unfair to his confidants. Unfortunately, he was a genius in other aspects. But in the emotional aspect, he was really slow to the point that people didn't know what to say. Every time it happened, it was the girl who took the initiative, and Lin Yi himself was an extremely soft-hearted person. Getting him to put down his pride and reject her face was harder than ascending to the heavens. Especially in this case, Huiyudi was willing to give up her life and reputation for him. What else could he say? He was touched and helpless at the same time. He could only tell himself that in his heart. This time, no matter what, he couldn't let Huiyudi down. She had done so much for him, and as a man, if he still hesitated and backed down, that would be too unreasonable. As for now, there was only one thing that Lin Yi had to do, and that was to work hard to recover. Although most of the trial takers had already left, there was still Scarface and the others. Huiyudi alone couldn't stand firm in this trial ground. He had to recover as soon as possible, so that he could rest easy. West Island, Island Master Palace. In a side hall study, two women sat opposite each other. It was West Island Master Ning Shangling and East Continent Morning Pride Academy Deputy Dean Lu Ziyu. The study was the same as the boudoir, it was Ning Shangling's private place. Generally, outsiders couldn't come in, but Lu Ziyu and she were good friends who had known each other since childhood. Although there was a difference in strength, they weren't outsiders. Shangling, do you know who that Lin Yi is? Lu Ziyu asked with a strange expression. She really couldn't imagine that her precious disciple would take the initiative to stay inside for a man she didn't know. At this moment, she felt an inexplicable emptiness in her heart, as if the flesh of her heart had been snatched away. This Lin Yi is indeed a very rare talent. Among the younger generation of the 5 great heavenly islands that have recently risen up, he can be considered a rare outstanding talent. Ning Shangling smiled and said honestly, "To be honest with you, Ziyu, I actually think quite highly of this kid. He's one of the candidates that I'm interested in as Feifei's husband." This kid is really that famous? Lu Ziyu instantly revealed a surprised expression when she heard that. Who was Ning Shangling? She was the West Island Master, a top-notch existence that could be counted on one's fingers even in the 5 great heavenly islands. With her level and status, ordinary so-called super geniuses wouldn't catch her eye at all. Even in a place like East State College where geniuses gathered, there were very few young disciples that Ning Shangling could remember, let alone get such a high evaluation from her. At least from what Lu Ziyu knew, this old friend of hers had never evaluated a young man like that. To be able to make her a candidate for her daughter's husband, he was equivalent to half an heir of the West Island in the future. Was this Lin Yi really that amazing? He can't really be considered famous. In terms of fame, he's actually far inferior to Nakajima and the few from the East Continent. However, if you carefully understand what he's done, you'll know that he's extraordinary. Ning Shangling was rather emotional. Seeing that Lu Ziyu didn't seem to believe her, she smiled and gave an example. You also know that the West Mountain Evil Sect is a great threat to our West Island. All these years, I've spent a lot of manpower and effort to monitor their every move. Among them, there's a West Mountain Old Sect Master. Do you still remember him? Of course, he's a loser. Lu Ziyu sneered. She was a reliable ally that naturally stood on the West Island side. Whenever the West Mountain Evil Sect wanted to stir up trouble, she would rush over to help at the first instant. She had quite a few encounters with the top-notch experts of the West Mountain Evil Sect, and among them was the West Mountain Old Sect Master, who was ranked second among the evil cultivators. To you, he's naturally a loser. But even at the level of the mountain opening period, this old thief's strength is still considered a rare troublesome existence, Ning Shangling said. This old thief is indeed not weak. Last time, I even suffered a small loss at his hands, Lu Ziyu said angrily. Although she suffered a loss last time because someone caught her off guard and made the first move, this West Mountain Old Sect Master was indeed not a kind person. Even if the two of them fought one-on-one fairly, to be honest, she didn't have much confidence that she could win. Chapter 4732. Kill who? Lu Ziyu was taken aback. Someone who could make West Mountain Old Sect, a big shot of evil cultivators, come out personally was definitely not an ordinary person. Most likely, it was only the top experts of those famous sections. It's Lin Yi. Ning Shangling smiled faintly. Lin? Ning Shangling was instantly shocked and couldn't help but be moved. Is that true? How did he offend West Mountain Old Sect? The reason is actually very simple. He killed an evil cultivator named Wu Baoliang. This person was the direct disciple of the West Mountain Sect's elder, and he was also his nephew. That's why this old thief was alerted, Ning Shangling explained. So that's how it is. No wonder the old thief was so angry. But with such a big shot evil cultivator at the opening of the mountain personally hunting him down, how could he still live until now? Could it be that there's some expert protecting him? Lu Ziyu couldn't help but ask curiously. Although she hadn't paid attention to Lin Yi before, since he could participate in the West Island trial, it meant that his strength was at most at the peak of the nascent soul stage. This strength was already extremely high for most cultivators, but in front of evil cultivators at the level of West Mountain Old Sect, he was no different from an ordinary person. He could be crushed to death with just a thought. If there wasn't an expert helping him, Lu Ziyu wouldn't believe that a mere nascent soul stage expert could survive under the hands of West Mountain Old Sect. It was simply a fantasy. There really isn't. It's not like you don't know about the South Continent Sea. Apart from the Spirit Beast clan, who can contend against the experts of West Mountain Old Sect? Ning Shangling laughed. That's true. The Spirit Beast clan secludes themselves from the world, and evil cultivators or not have nothing to do with them. They're not like the famous sects who would shout at an old thief like West Mountain Old Sect. If there's no personal enmity, normally no one would take the initiative to deal with West Mountain Old Sect. Lu Ziyu nodded, and then became interested. She asked curiously, but if that's the case, how did Lin Yi escape from West Mountain Old Sect? It's not quite possible with just his own words, right? When I first saw the tip-off, I actually also felt that it was incredible. But the fact is that Lin Yi survived from the hands of West Mountain Old Sect with his own strength. Ning Shangling sighed with emotion. How is this possible? Lu Ziyu was greatly astonished. At their level, there were very few things that could cause her to lose her composure. But a mere original infant stage cultivator was able to escape from the West Mountain Elder's pursuit. This was not only shocking, it was completely subverting their worldview. Apart from Lin Yi himself and Grandmaster Shishan, I'm afraid no one else knows the specific process. But according to my informant in West Island, one thing is certain. The reason why Lin Yi was able to escape death was that he escaped into the interior of the South Island, Ning Shangling said. He escaped to the South Island? No wonder West Mountain Old Sect didn't dare to chase after him. But for a nascent soul stage cultivator to be able to escape from the territory of the spiritual beasts unscathed, that's an unprecedented miracle. Lu Ziyu sighed from the bottom of her heart. She glanced at Ning Shangling and said, in that case, this child is really extraordinary. It's not strange that you want to take him in as a son-in-law. If he can really grow up in the future, he might not be inferior to that one of yours. That's right, that's what I was thinking at first. But unfortunately, it looks like it's impossible now. But there's heaven's will in the unseen world. Fertile water should not flow to outsiders, so I'll give it to your precious disciple. Ning Shangling covered her mouth and laughed. He abducted my disciple and trapped him in the trial grounds. I haven't even settled the score with him. No matter how talented he is, I won't agree to let die or go with him. Lu Ziyu snorted coldly with a face full of anger. Ziyu, don't be so harsh with your words. Maybe by the time the two of them come out of the trial ground, they'll already have a child. Ning Shangling, who had always been graceful and magnanimous, now had a rare hint of mischievous playfulness on her face. Lu Ziyu's expression immediately changed. She hesitated for a moment, and then said, unable to put down her pride, that won't do either. No matter what, I won't hand die Or over to this kid whose background I don't know. Her. Speaking of which, Lin Yi knows you very well, so it's not like you don't know anything about him. You still don't know, right? He's from the North Island's 3 great pavilions. He's a disciple that our old senior, Shanghai Tianhua, thinks highly of, Ning Shangling revealed with a smile. Is that true? Lu Ziyu was finally moved. Although she was shocked when she heard about Lin Yi's amazing deeds, she didn't have a good impression of him. But when she heard that Lin Yi was actually a subordinate of Shanghai Tianhua, this was a completely different matter. Both Lu Ziyu and Ning Shangling had hundreds of years of friendship with Shanghai Tianhua. Although Shanghai Tianhua was a senior, because they had been teachers for a period of time, the closeness of their relationship was not something that could be explained clearly with just a few words. If Lin Yi was really a disciple that Shanghai Tianhua thought highly of, then no matter how reluctant she was, she couldn't possibly continue to refuse to let him go. Of course it's true. This time, he's a special envoy from the North Island personally appointed by Shanghai Tianhua. Otherwise, why do you think I'd consider him? Ning Shangling shook her head and laughed. If one wanted to become Ning Shangling's husband, it wasn't enough to just be strong. The most important thing was to know his background. Only then could they ensure the stability of the West Island in the future. If that's really the case... Lu Ziyu's expression changed. She muttered to herself for a moment, then finally sighed and said, "Sigh, forget it. If it really doesn't work, I'll just wait here for a few years. Since he's a disciple that Big Brother Shangguan thinks highly of, he's a good match for Dai. I really can't say anything more." Ziyu, if you can really have Lin Yi as your son-in-law, it's your blessing. If it wasn't for the fact that I've already announced that only those who pass the trial can become my son-in-law, do you think I'd give him to you so easily? And you're still sighing here as if you've suffered a great loss. I really don't know what to say. Ning Shangling didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lu Ziyu smiled a little awkwardly. Although there was nothing wrong with what she said, Hui Yudi was, after all, the flesh of her heart. She had treated her like her own daughter since she was young. Now that she suddenly found out that the flesh of her heart was going to leave with someone else, she really didn't feel good. Most parents probably had this kind of mentality. As the two of them were talking, a disciple from the West Island suddenly came in to report. He said in an urgent tone, "Reporting to Island Lord, when I was registering the trial takers just now, I found a person named Kong Ming Ming digging up an immature Thunder Xuanwu, and he even dug it up by the roots." Chapter 47:33. It was no exaggeration to say that Kong Ming Ming's behavior was no less than coming to the temporary imperial residence of the island owner to rob and smash the heirloom treasure of West Island. If the news got out, he would be infuriated by both humans and gods. It was no wonder that Ning Shangling was furious. This guy is so hateful. Lu Ziyu was also filled with righteous indignation. As an old friend of Ning Shangling for many years, she knew clearly what the Thunder Xian Ratan meant to West Island. She couldn't help but wonder, but how did Kong Ming Ming find the Thunder Xian Ratan? Such an important route map shouldn't be leaked, right? I also think it's very strange. We must investigate this matter carefully. Ning Shangling frowned and said, "It was true that the existence of the Thunder Xian Ratan in West Island's trial was not a secret. In fact, many trial takers came for the Thunder Xian Ratan. But the specific location of the Thunder Xian Ratan was a top secret in West Island. Even among the inner disciples of West Island, only a few disciples who were valued by Ning Shangling would get a hint, and the others had no way to know. Even with the deep relationship between Lu Ziyu and Ning Shangling, it was only because Lu Ziyu had made great contributions to West Island that he revealed it to her, and it had never been spread before. Whether it was Lu Ziyu or those disciples valued by Ning Shangling, they were all absolutely reliable people. Normally, there was no reason for them to leak such an important secret. How did Kong Ming Ming know it? Could it be that this guy injured Dai and forced the information out of her? Lu Ziyu was suddenly alarmed. Ning Shangling also nodded thoughtfully. Most of the participants in the trial of West Island were outsiders, and there were not many local disciples in West Island. To prevent the secret of the Thunder Xian Ratan from being leaked, Ning Shangling didn't give them any hint this time. That was to say, among these people, Only Huiyudi knew the location of the Thunder Xian Ratan. According to this inference, Kang Mingming was very likely to get the clue from Huiyudi, and this thing could be combined with Lin Yi's injury. Lin Yi might be trying to save Huiyudi. That was why he was severely injured by Kang Mingming, and it was also because of this that Huiyudi did not hesitate to sacrifice her life and reputation to stay inside to accompany him. In just a short moment, Ning Shangling and Lu Ziyu had spontaneously formed a complete sequence of events. The more they thought about it, the more logical they felt it to be, almost certain that it was the truth. This Kang Mingming really deserves to die, Lu Ziyu said angrily through gritted teeth. Ning Shangling nodded with an ugly expression, not saying a word. She was far more infuriated than Lu Ziyu, but as the ruler of the Western Island, there was nothing she could do. After all, everything in the trial was up to fate, and it was common for people to kill others and seize their treasures. Moreover, there was no rule that she couldn't touch the Thunder Xian vine in advance. Even if she wanted to punish Kang Mingming, what reason did she have to take revenge afterwards? What Kang Mingming did was shameless, but if Ning Shangling really blamed him for it, the whole West Island would become the laughingstock of the world. It was related to the reputation of West Island, so she could only swallow it. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed, and there was still no news from Lin Yi and Huiyudi. In fact, everyone knew that the two of them had been trapped inside and couldn't get out. The maximum time limit for a master at the peak of the nascent soul realm was 1 month, and a whole month and a half had passed. Just because the masters above the nascent soul realm couldn't activate the transmitting formation. Even immortals couldn't come out again. The trial in the Western Island was so noisy that it couldn't keep dragging on like this. After all, there had to be a final conclusion, or it would be like breaking the promise. Although Ning Xuefei had pleaded with Ning Shangling several times these days, she, Han Jingjing, and Shanghai Laner all believed her. She asked her to try to delay it for a while, preferably until Lin Yi came back. She, Han Jingjing, and Shanghai Laner all believed it. As long as Lin Yi recovered, he would definitely find a way to get out. However, this kind of thing couldn't be decided by Ning Shangling alone. After all, this was a big event of the whole West Island, and all the sects of other Heaven Stage islands were paying attention to it. No matter how much she spoiled her daughter, she couldn't make fun of the reputation of the whole West Island. Delaying it for half a month was the limit, and she really couldn't delay it any longer. Regarding this result, Ning Xuefei, who had just recovered a little from the blow of Lin Yi's serious injury, really wanted to cry but had no tears, because she already knew who was the destined winner this time. She hated this person very much, and she wouldn't entrust her life to this kind of person even if she was beaten to death. But she had no choice. After all, this represented the credibility and face of the whole West Island, and she couldn't just say no to it. After half a month, in everyone's expectation, the Island Master's Palace finally opened to the public again. All the trial takers who had participated in the West Island trial were invited to the side courtyard of the palace, in the courtyard of the transmission formation. Today, the final winner of the West Island trial would be publicly judged here. The reason why they didn't choose the more grand and formal square outside was mainly to take care of the trial takers. After all, these treasures would be taken away after the evaluation. As the saying went, one shouldn't show one's wealth. If they were placed in a public place outside, it was hard to guarantee that they wouldn't get into trouble later. Now they were placed in the relatively secret side courtyard of the Island Master's Palace. Although this kind of thing couldn't be completely eliminated, it was better. The side courtyard was heavily guarded, and it was crowded with people. Not only a group of trial takers gathered here, but also the branch managers of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce, the Central Chamber of Commerce, the Wealthy Chamber of Commerce, and so on. As the most authoritative industry insiders, they were the important judges specially invited by West Island. After a brief opening speech, everyone soon got to the long-awaited topic. A group of West Island disciples took out the previous registration books and asked the trial takers to take them out one by one to compare in public, and a group of judges evaluated them on the spot. Only the one with the highest evaluation would have the last laugh. This was undoubtedly a treasure appraisal conference. Every time someone took out a rare treasure of heaven and earth, there would be a burst of whispers in the side courtyard. Many people knew that they couldn't compare with other trial takers, but this time they could see so many kinds of treasures of heaven and earth, which could be regarded as an eye-opener, and they didn't come in vain. Of course, there were also some trial takers who were very ambitious. Relying on the rare treasures of heaven and earth in their hands, they thought that this time they could have a chance to become Ning Shangling's son-in-law, and then they could have a meteoric rise. However, when it was Kong Ming Ming's turn, everything stopped abruptly. Thunder Xian Ratan. It turned out to be the legendary Thunder Xian Ratan. Chapter 4734. DSDX. The PP software for the novel has been developed. Please go to the bottom of the HP.N website, and you can install the PP software for Android and Apple. This kind of treasure of heaven and earth didn't even need to be judged by experts. The value of the Thunder Mystic Vine was beyond doubt. Even if all the other treasures of heaven and earth on the scene were added together, they would not be as valuable as the Thunder Mystic Vine. Of course, the managers of the Chambers of Commerce and other experts had already seen that this Thunder Mystic Vine was not fully mature. But even if it was an immature Thunder Mystic Vine, it was still a Thunder Mystic Vine. After its value was discounted, it still dominated the scene. No other treasure of heaven and earth could compare with it. Even if it was an immature Thunder Mystic Vine, it could still be used to refine the Thunder Mystic Pill. Although its quality would definitely be affected, and it couldn't guarantee that it would pass the Thunder Tribulation, there was still a great chance. Judging from this point alone, it was still a rare treasure that could only be found but not sought. Looking at the complacent Kong Ming Ming, all the trial takers present suddenly became listless. At this time, no matter how unwilling they were, it was futile. The value of all the treasures of heaven and earth they had was not even a fraction of what he had. How could they compare with him? The trial takers were just shocked and frustrated, but the eyes of the disciples of the Western Island when they looked at Kong Ming Ming were full of undisguised anger. He had uprooted the Thunder Mystic Vine that belonged to the Western Island, and it was still an immature Thunder Mystic Vine. This meant that he had overdrawn the priceless treasure of the Western Islands trial in the future. In other words, this bastard had simply robbed the Thunder Mystic Vine that should have belonged to them, and he had done it in such a way that would cause the wrath of both men and gods. This was intolerable. If it weren't for Ning Shangling and Yen Xinlan restraining them, the disciples of the Western Island would have already rushed up and torn the bastard Kong Ming Ming into pieces. He had robbed the master's treasure and dared to show it off in the master's house. Who gave him such courage? Kong Ming Ming was completely unaware of this. At this moment he was full of excitement. While enjoying the shocked and envious gazes of the crowd, he looked at Ning Xuefei in the distance greedily. At the thought that such a delicate little beauty, who was also the noble princess of the Western Island, would soon be his, he couldn't help swallowing his saliva. West Island had made the right choice this time. Su Lingchong wasn't as stupid as Kong Xiaoming. He secretly poked Kong Xiaoming in the back. Kong Xiaoming shuddered when he noticed that the disciples of the Western Island looked like they were going to eat him alive. He was sweating profusely. He had unknowingly incurred the wrath of the crowd. But it was only in this kind of public place. If there were not so many outsiders present, these impatient disciples of the Western Island would really eat him alive. He had to be careful when he went back later, so as to avoid falling into a trap. But on second thought, Kong Ming Ming suddenly felt amused. After today, he was destined to be the prince consort of the West Island. For these disciples of the West Island, he was the real master. They wouldn't dare to do anything to harm him even if they were 100 times braver. Worrying about this kind of thing was completely groundless. Not only that, if one day he was in a good mood, he could even casually find a few beauties in womanland. He could even take advantage of Ning Shangling, this noble and beautiful mother-in-law of his. Just thinking about it made him feel so good that he could fly. Seeing the greedy and complacent look on Kong Ming Ming's face, the disciples of the Western Island became angrier and angrier. Even Ning Shangling, who had always been calm, couldn't help but frown. At the thought of making such a shameless guy her son-in-law, she suddenly felt as disgusted as if she had eaten a fly. Not only Ning Shangling, the mother, but also Yen Xinlan and Lu Ziyu, who were next to her, were furious when they saw this. They looked at each other tacitly, and killing intent flashed across their eyes. If Ning Shangling acquiesced, they didn't mind being killers in the dark. They had watched Ning Xuefei grow up since she was a child. No matter what, they couldn't watch Ning Xuefei jump into the fire pit. And they couldn't allow such a shameless guy like Kong Mingming to be the prince consort of the West Island. Ning Shangling shook her head slightly. As Ning Xuefei's mother, she wanted to do this more than anyone else, but another more important identity didn't allow her to do so. Even if she didn't want Kong Mingming to be the prince consort of the West Island, she couldn't use such a violent method that could easily lead to gossip. Everyone, it's almost time. Let's take a lunch break first, and the results will be announced in the afternoon, Ning Shangling announced with an indifferent look, and then took the lead to leave the field with Ning Xuefei. The crowd was left stunned. The other trial takers didn't care. Anyway, it was obvious that they had nothing to do with it. It didn't matter to them whether the results were announced now or in the afternoon. If they couldn't wait, they could leave now. However, Kong Mingming's expression at the moment was really wonderful. He was complacent just now, and even prepared to give his acceptance speech, but when he heard Ning Shangling's words, he almost bit his tongue off. Senior cultivators didn't even need to eat, drink, or go to the toilet during lunch break, and it was common knowledge that they didn't need to sleep or rest. Damn it, where did lunch break come from? For a moment, feeling the malicious eyes of the West Island disciples from all directions, Kong Mingming was so scared that he almost peed his pants. His future mother-in-law deliberately left such a blank period of time. Could it be that she wanted to give these West Island disciples a chance to take advantage of it? Kong Mingming was a schemer himself, so when he encountered this kind of thing, his mind was naturally full of conspiracy theories. Think about it. If they could kill him before the results were announced, then they could take back the Thunder Abstruse Vines justifiably, and the price that the West Island had to pay was just a scapegoat. It was a good deal no matter how he thought about it. At this moment, facing the envious eyes of the other trial takers, Kong Mingming was sweating profusely, and even his legs were weak from fear. Why didn't Ning Shangling play by the rules? What should he do now? Seeing the other trial takers leave one after another, Kong Mingming suddenly felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. He subconsciously prepared to run away, but was stopped by Su Lingchong. Kong Mingming suggested nervously, "Child Su, the situation is not good. Why don't we run away now? Anyway, Lin Yi can't come back. As long as we don't let him get involved with Ning Xuefei, we can take the Thunder Abstruse Vines back and complete the task, right? Don't panic." Su Lingchong snorted. Of course, he also knew that the situation was serious. They had dug up an immature Thunder Abstruse Vines from the roots, and they had greatly offended almost all the West Island disciples. Even if Ning Shangling didn't say anything, the people below might take the initiative to assassinate them. This kind of thing was impossible to guard against. But Kong Mingming still wanted to run away. For him, the most dangerous period before the final results were announced, especially in this place where the West Island masters were everywhere. If someone was ruthless enough to launch a sneak attack on him, he wouldn't even know how he died. To be continued. This book is collected from a website. Please move to the pavilion. The chapters are clear and updated quickly. Chapter 4735. Idiot. It's precisely because these people harbor ill intentions towards us that we have to stay here even more. If we were to go out now, then they can just casually find a scapegoat to brush it off if something happens. But so long as we stay here, they will absolutely not dare to act rashly. Su Lingchong grunted coldly in a low voice. Ah! Kong Mingming was stunned, and then suddenly reacted. He said excitedly with his eyes shining, "Yes, Child Su is wise. This is the palace of the island owner, and I'm the winner of the trial by so many people. If something happens to me here, West Island will never get away with it. They won't dare to take such a risk no matter how bold they are. The most dangerous place is the safest place. That's the truth. As long as the result of the trial is announced, no one can hurt us." Su Lingchong sneered proudly. Yes, that's the truth." Kong Xiaoming suddenly became arrogant again. He looked at the West Island disciples around him with his head held high. Not only was he not afraid, but he also commented on their looks with great interest. They would all be his potential targets in the future. In the trial site, in a hidden corner not far from the transmission array, Hui Yudi still stayed by Lin Yi's side. Although Lin Yi still had no sign of waking up, Hui Yudi was not as worried and hesitant as she was at the beginning. She looked quite calm and sure. There was no other reason. She had seen every change of Lin Yi these days. Except that he didn't wake up, everything else was getting better quickly. Not only his breath and pulse became stronger, but what was more amazing was that the shocking wound on Lin Yi's abdomen was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye, even though it had not been treated effectively. Now it was about to be healed. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Hui Yudi would never believe that there was such a magical thing in the world. After suffering such a fatal injury, he not only didn't die, but also could survive without the help of a miracle-working doctor. It was more than beyond common sense to heal himself completely by his own vitality. It was a miracle. Lin Yi was really an extraordinary person. Hui Yudi confirmed this recognition again. Seeing that Lin Yi's breath was as steady as usual, she smiled softly and then got up and walked out of the hidden corner. He went outside under the sun and took out his phone to charge. Apart from rainy days, this was what she had to do every day for the past half a month. Han Jingjing had specifically told her to charge it frequently. After all, this was the only way they could communicate with each other. If it was broken, it would be troublesome. Fortunately, this training ground rarely saw rain all year round, although it was always shrouded in a layer of blood. However, as long as they reached an open space, charging would not be a problem. As usual, Hui Yudi came to the open space outside the teleportation array. There were valleys on both sides, and she could only bask in the sun at noon. However, before she could put down her phone, she suddenly saw a shadow flashing in the corner of her eyes. Who? Hui Yudi was frightened. However, after looking around, she didn't see anyone. Instead, the wind was quite strong, and the sound of it was whistling. It was just a false alarm. Hui Yudi heaved a sigh of relief. Now that Lin Yi was unconscious, she could only rely on herself. To be honest, she really felt a little uneasy. Although she was a nascent soul-perfected expert, she was still a weak girl. Moreover, her strength was not invincible in this place, and there was still Scarface and his gang. As usual, after charging the phone, Hui Yudi put away her phone and returned to her hiding place to take care of Lin. However, before she could sit down, there was a sudden sound of messy footsteps. Then she saw a man with a domineering aura. He brought a group of ferocious-looking subordinates with him. It was Scarface and his gang. "It's you." Hui Yudi turned pale with fright. She hurriedly stood in front of the unconscious Lin Yi and looked at Scarface with fear and caution. This guy obviously didn't come with good intentions. "Oh, it's really here." Scarface looked at Hui Yudi from head to toe, drooling. His eyes shone brightly as he swallowed his saliva. It seemed like he wanted to pounce on her. Previously, when he saw Hui Yudi, she was wearing a veil. Therefore, he only knew that this girl had an alluring figure. As for what her face looked like, he didn't know. Therefore, even if Scarface had some thoughts, he wouldn't be too impulsive. After all, in this day and age, looking at someone's back would make people commit a crime. Looking at someone's face would make people defend themselves. In fact, there were many girls in the Heaven Stage Island. But now, because there was no one around, Hui Yudi had already taken off her veil. Her delicate and alluring face was unreservedly displayed in front of everyone. Coupled with her seductive figure, if Scarface and his gang didn't have any thoughts of committing a crime at this time, it could only mean that they weren't men. Looking at their obscene expressions, Hui Yudi's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. She secretly regretted that she was too careless. The figure she had glimpsed from the corner of her eyes was not an illusion at all. It was a spy of Scarface and his gang. Only in this way could she explain why these people suddenly appeared here. Hui Yudi didn't guess wrong. It was the truth. Every year, after the West Island trial ended, the scar-faced man would always bring people to the exit to patrol. This was his usual practice, because according to past experience, there would always be a few unlucky challengers at this time of the year who never gave up, making their last struggle here. Of course, this was wishful thinking. After a month, no one could go out. They could only have a chance when the next trial began. As the local emperor, Scarface knew this better than anyone else. And according to his experience, after about a month and a half, these unlucky guys who were making their last struggle would give up one after another. This was the best time for him to come out and recruit his underlings. That was why he sent his men to check out the situation. He didn't expect to accidentally find a beauty like Huiyuti. Looking at Huiyuti's charming and attractive appearance, Scarface couldn't help but start howling like a wolf. Although he still had some fear in his heart because of Lin Yi's slap, Lin Yi was still lying there and couldn't move. He was a master at the peak of the early stage of mysterious ascension. How could he be scared by a half-dead person? As for Huiyuti herself, Scarface had learned his lesson from Su Lingchong. Although he was afraid that this chick's strength was not to be underestimated, he was still captivated by her beauty. He was a man who had held back for decades. Now that he had suddenly seen such a beauty, he would not be Scarface, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. After a few days, I will show everyone Murloc's account. Hehe, this is a new gift pack benefit that Murloc has made for everyone. Enter the following activation code in the game to receive it. Eat Deduk. Chapter 4736. What do you want? Huiyuti pretended to be calm as she furrowed her brows. She was extremely anxious in her heart. Because this was a place she had specially found for Lin Yi, there was only one exit, but it was completely blocked by Scarface and his men. There was no way to escape, so the only way was to brace herself and scare Scarface away. Nothing much. I just heard from my subordinates that you were still here, so I came over to see if there was anything I could help you with. Scarface smiled. Due to his last bit of fear, he didn't want to force himself on her. If he could make this girl lower her head, that would be for the best. No need. I advise you to quickly take these people away. Otherwise, if they disturb my peace, don't blame me for being impolite. Huiyuti pretended to be strong as she coldly snorted. Is that so? So the young lady wanted peace and quiet? That's good, but this place is really too lousy. It can't block the wind or the rain. No matter how you look at it, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with peace. Scarface pinched his chin as he laughed. Huiyuti looked at him coldly and didn't say anything. She didn't know what this guy was planning. The difference in strength between her and the enemy was too great. Unless it was absolutely necessary, she couldn't shed all pretense of cordiality and could only feign civility. Looking at the entire training grounds, I'm afraid that the only place that is quiet is my place. If you don't mind, why don't you come to my place to stay? Scarface suggested maliciously. No need, I'm fine staying here. You guys can go. Huiyuti immediately refused. Miss, as the saying goes, you rely on your parents at home, and when you go out, you rely on your friends. We met by chance and this is called fate. I'm sincerely inviting you. Don't you think you're not giving me any face? Scarface's expression changed. Then what do you want? Huiyuti was shocked. If the other party turned hostile, then today would be really dangerous. I don't want anything. I just want you to stay at my place for a while and accompany me while you're at it. I feel that we can cultivate our relationship. Only then did Scarface reveal his foxtail. With a face full of saliva, he chuckled and said, After all, we're all trapped in this godforsaken place and can't get out. Life has to go on. You're such a beautiful woman, you can't always be a widow with this half-dead guy. What do you say, young lady? Dream on. Huiyuti's expression immediately turned as cold as ice. It was fine to feign civility, but since the other party had spoken to such an extent, she could not tolerate it. Little girl, let me give you a word of advice. It's best not to say things so ruthlessly. As long as you accompany me for a few days, I guarantee that no one here will dare to touch even a single hair on your head. This is good for both of us, but if you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me for not having tender, protective feelings for the fairer sex. A stern look flashed across Knife Scar's face. Huiyuti was so angry that she gritted her teeth. If it wasn't for the fact that Lin Yi was behind her, she would have made a move already. Even if she had to die, she wouldn't let him have his way. Hehe, I'm still being polite to you. You'd better accept it. Otherwise, when I'm not polite, then... Scarface said as he spoke. With a lewd smile on his face, He reached out to touch Hui Yuti's body. What if I'm not polite? Following the indifferent voice, a hand suddenly grabbed onto Scarface's perverted claw. No matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't budge. Looking at the owner of this hand, everyone gasped in unison. Without saying a word, they scattered like birds and beasts. Hui Yuti's eyes flickered with disbelief. She covered her small mouth with her hands, and was so excited that she couldn't say a word for a long time. Thump. Scarface was so scared that his legs went soft. A dignified early-stage mysterious ascending expert knelt down on the spot. Looking at his current expression, he was practically scared out of his wits. Even if you beat him to death, he wouldn't have expected it. Lin Yi, who had suffered such a terrifying injury to his abdomen, actually woke up at this time. Furthermore, he felt that his aura seemed to have become even stronger than before. Previously, this ruthless person could send him flying with a casual slap. If he wanted to kill him now, wouldn't it be easier than killing an ant? His feeling was really not wrong. As the saying goes, one who survives a great disaster is bound to have good fortune. After Lin Yi had been unconscious for so many days, his strength had unknowingly risen to the middle stage of nascent soul. At this time, he had just woken up, so he hadn't fully grasped his strength yet. That was why Scarface could feel it. You haven't answered me yet. What will happen if I'm not polite? Lin Yi looked at Scarface, who was trembling in fear as he knelt in front of him. His tone carried a faint killing intent. Nothing much. I just have a cheap mouth, Scarface said as he slapped himself twice in the face. With a sullen face, he begged, Senior, please spare me. I really just have a cheap mouth. I really don't mean anything else. Then why did you come here? Lin Yi curled his lips noncommittally. I'm here to send Senior off. I reckon that Senior is about to get bored of staying here, so I came to send you off. Scarface suddenly had an idea. Is that so? Then why did I vaguely hear that you seem to want her to sleep with you? The killing intent on Lin Yi's body became more and more intense. No, this is really a huge misunderstanding. Scarface was immediately scared to the point of peeing his pants. He was afraid that he would be crushed to death by Lin Yi in the next moment. He hurriedly came up with an idea and said, Senior, I really didn't say to sleep. I said to let your wife go back with me to choose some good things as a farewell gift for you. It can also be considered a small token of my appreciation, really? Lin Yi turned his head to look at Hui Yuti. He held her hand and winked mischievously. At this moment, Hui Yuti was still immersed in the sudden pleasant surprise. When she felt Lin Yi hold her hand, she suddenly reacted. Her charming face immediately flushed red. Her cheeks were like burning clouds, and the redness had already reached her ears. She didn't hear a single word that was said clearly. However, she heard the sensitive word, wife. Seeing that Lin Yi didn't have any intention of correcting her, especially when he took the initiative to hold her hand, did this mean that he had tacitly agreed? But he wasn't even ready yet. Wasn't this development a little too fast? How was she going to explain this to Master? Hui Yuti's mind was filled with random thoughts. She only managed to recover when Lin Yi asked for the second time. After understanding Lin Yi's meaning, she tilted her head and said, It seems so. Then why don't we go and choose some? Chapter 47:37. Yes, I'll lead the way. Scarface finally let out a sigh of relief. He had taken a big turn at the gates of hell, but today he really got his life back. Looking at Scarface's sorry figure, Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. He turned his head and looked deeply at Hui Yuti. He squeezed her hand tightly and said, You've worked hard these days, I'll remember it in my heart. He had never been a man who knew how to say sweet words. No matter how touched he was, he would only say plain and simple words. However, every word came from the bottom of his heart. Not at all. It's what I should do. Hui Yuti blushed and lowered her head. What you should do? A temporary teammate has such a big responsibility? Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. Hui Yuti stuttered for a long time. No matter what, this matter had already exceeded the boundaries of being a temporary teammate. However, as a girl, she couldn't just directly admit it and say that she inexplicably wanted to stay with him for the rest of her life, right? Linny laughed. Seeing this, he no longer teased her. He immediately grabbed Huiyuti's hand and directly caught up to Scarface. If he didn't keep a close eye on him, this guy might find a way to escape midway. As Linny expected, Scarface really did have this idea. Although he knew that he couldn't be Lin Yi's opponent, if he let go midway, he could just find a random corner to hide in. Lin Yi wouldn't even think about finding him again. After all, in terms of familiarity with the trial grounds, no one in the world could surpass him. Unfortunately, seeing Lin Yi casually catch up with him, Scarface's extravagant hopes were immediately shattered. His heart was filled with shock and fear. He didn't dare to have any thoughts of playing tricks and could only obediently do as Lin Yi said. The three of them were extremely fast. Along the way, they were basically rushing at Scarface's top speed. As a peak early-stage mysterious ascended expert, even if he wasn't good at speed, his top speed was definitely not slow. In just an hour, they arrived at the entrance of the 10,000-year Grand Canyon. What are you standing there for? Where was the promised gift? Hurry up and take it out. Do you want me to do it myself? Lin Yi frowned and glanced at Scarface. Scarface was so frightened that he trembled. Trembling with fear, he quickly took out the treasures that he had accumulated over the years. Although his heart ached for these treasures, compared to his life, these treasures were nothing. If the treasures were gone, he could still bring people to continue searching for them. But if he lost his life, then he would lose everything. Looking at the various heavenly treasures piled up into a small mountain in front of him, Zhang Xian's eyes lit up. Huiyuti's eyes couldn't help but shine brightly. Even Lin Yi couldn't help but nod his head in agreement. Damn it, the Mountain King profession really had a bright future ahead of him. Previously, he really couldn't tell that Scarface was actually a tycoon. You pick first. Lin Yi smiled at Huiyuti, and Huiyuti immediately pounced on him. She wouldn't be courteous to someone like Scarface, and with her experience, it was rare for her to make a mistake when it came to truly good things. After going one round, she picked 4 or 5 items. Every one of them was an extremely rare heaven and earth treasure. Scarface's heart was bleeding as he watched from the side. If it wasn't for the fact that Lin Yi's prestige was too great, he wouldn't have been able to resist it. At this moment, he couldn't help but want to risk his life. The items that Huiyuti had picked were all his special treasures. Apart from the legendary Thunder Mystic Vine, they were the most valuable in the entire training ground. In the entire trial ground, they were the most valuable. He had spent dozens of years to collect these few, but in the end, all of them were taken by this little girl, leaving not a single one for him. Scarface wanted to slap himself 14,000 times on the spot. Fuck, it was all because of his cheap mouth. Why did he have to say that he was giving gifts? Even if he wanted to give gifts, he should have found a chance to secretly hide these items. Now, everything was exposed to Lin Yi and Huiyu Hao. This was practically sending a sheep into a tiger's mouth. But fortunately, these two people could only take 8 or 10 items at most. No matter how many items they had, they wouldn't be able to take them away. The other slightly inferior heaven and earth treasures could still be left. This time, he would just treat it as him spending money to avoid disaster. Helplessly, Scarface could only comfort himself like this. After waiting for Huiyuti to finish picking, this little girl was still pouting. If it wasn't for the fact that her backpack was almost broken, she would have taken a few more. In any case, this was a rare opportunity, so it would be a waste not to take it. You won't blame us for taking so many gifts from you, right? Lin Yi looked at Huiyuti's expression and couldn't help but laugh. He turned his head and glanced at the grimacing Scarface. No, how could that be possible? Scarface hurriedly smiled and shook his head. He forced a smile and said, "Senior, it is my honor that you have taken a liking to these items. The more you take, the more you think highly of me. I can't be happier. If you want to take all of them, it's fine." Really? Lin Yi looked at him with a smile that wasn't a smile. Really, it's even truer than real gold. I'm definitely speaking from the bottom of my heart. Scarface patted his chest as he spoke. He wasn't puffing himself up to look impressive, but he was already numb to it. Since the few treasures that he had kept as his trump cards had already been plundered by Huiyuti, even if 5 or 6 more treasures were taken from him, it wouldn't hurt at all. Oh, since it's so difficult to refuse, then I'll respectfully accept. I'll take them all away. Lin Yi was instantly delighted. He had seen warm and hospitable people, but he had never seen such a warm and hospitable person. Being friends with a tycoon like Scarface was indeed satisfying. Yes, yes. Scarface was still subconsciously echoing. After a moment, he reacted. The dignified mountain king at the peak of the early stage of the profound ascension realm looked like he was about to cry. He stammered, "What, senior? You're not joking, are you?" "No, I'm a very honest person. I usually don't joke with people." Lin Yi nodded solemnly. I mean, with so many things, are you sure you can take them away?" The scar-faced man asked cautiously. This was the place he had accumulated over the past few decades. All sorts of heavenly materials and earthly treasures had been piled up into a small mountain. Although the other party was powerful, to say that he could take away all of them was nonsense. "Oh, you don't have to worry about this. Carrying things is my strength." Lin Yi smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, the heavenly and earthly treasures that had piled up like a small mountain in front of him instantly disappeared into thin air. Not a single one was left. Scarface knelt on the ground on the spot. His expression was one of shock and blood. He was dumbfounded for a long time and couldn't say a word. He felt his eyes go black, and his life was in darkness. Chapter 47:38. Looking at the backs of the two leaving, Scarface collapsed to the ground with a thud. He muttered the same sentence over and over again, "My baby, my baby." 2 hours later, Lin Yi and Hui Yudi returned to the exit of the teleportation array. Hui Yudi was still laughing. She had been laughing the whole way. She was happy whenever she thought of Scarface's last expression. "Hee, are you done? He suffered such a huge blow. As a girl, can you at least have some sympathy?" Lin Yi was a little speechless. "You're still talking about it? It's all because of you. I think Scarface is so depressed that he wants to commit suicide." "How pitiful, hee." Hui Yudi laughed as she spoke. She really didn't think that Lin Yi would be so strange. He directly took away all of Scarface's savings. Anyone would jump off a building in such a situation. This is called spending money to avoid disaster. It's already very good for him. Otherwise, do you think I would let him go so easily? Lin Yi smiled indifferently. Although Scarface didn't have time to attack him and Hui Yudi, and didn't cause any substantial harm, Lin Yi could clearly sense what this guy had done. It was only because he was in a good mood that he was able to keep his life. Otherwise, if it were any other time, Lin Yi might have killed him directly. Looking at his despairing look, I'm afraid he might as well die. Hui Yudi covered her mouth and laughed lightly. As they spoke, the two of them arrived at the exit of the teleportation array. She, who was originally in a good mood, suddenly frowned. She looked at Lin Yi helplessly and said, "What do we do now? We definitely can't get out of here. It seems like we can only wait until the next trial starts." "Are the restrictions of this teleportation array really so strict?" Lin Yi also frowned. If it wasn't for Ning Xuefei, being trapped here wouldn't be a big problem. At worst, he could just treat it as a closed-door training. But now that it was related to Ning Xuefei's marriage, they had to quickly think of a way to get out. "It should be. When you were unconscious, I asked the 2 West Island guards for advice, and they told me very clearly. Even the strongest attack of a nascent soul stage cultivator could only barely activate the teleportation after a month. Moreover, they would have to use all of their strength to activate the teleportation. But now, it has already been a month and a half." Hui Yudi sighed. If it weren't for such a long time, with Lin Yi's strength far beyond the peak of Yuaning realm, she believed that he could give it a try. Maybe he could really break the limit of 1 month. But now, an entire month and a half had passed. It was impossible no matter how he thought about it. "If that's the case, why didn't you try to open it once, throw me out, and then teleport yourself again?" Lin Yi couldn't help but ask. "That's what I thought, and I even specifically asked the 2 West Island guards about it. They said that it might not work, and with your condition at that time, it was very difficult for you to withstand the high load of the teleportation process. I was afraid that something would happen to you, so I didn't dare to try." Hui Yudi shook her head and added, Furthermore, even with my strength at the peak nascent soul stage, it's impossible for me to continuously unleash my strongest attack in a short period of time. I can't hold back at all. So that's how it is. Lin Yi nodded in realization. He could continuously activate the strongest killing move, so he subconsciously took it for granted that others were also such freaks. Strictly speaking, continuously activating the strongest killing move, this in itself was already an extremely heaven-defying ability. It was simply impossible for ordinary people to do it. This was not just a matter of talent. If it could become the strongest killing move, it would inevitably consume a lot of true chi. Many people would even consume all their true chi in one move. Lin Yi also relied on the jade pendant to replenish his true chi, so he could be so unscrupulous and casual. If it was a cultivator like Huayudi, she wouldn't be able to recover without a few months. By that time, the daylilies would have already rotted away. At that time, I really wanted to take a risk and try it. Maybe I could really send you out, but I definitely couldn't go out that way. I was afraid that even if you could successfully survive the teleportation, you would be targeted by Kai Zi and his accomplices when you reached the other side. I thought for a long time before giving up this idea. Huayudi said, "So it can really be done like this. If I activate it outside the teleportation array, there is a chance that I can send you out?" Lin Yi's eyes lit up when he heard this. He just casually asked. He never thought that there was really such a possibility. After all, according to what Yan Xinlan said before the trial began, to activate the teleportation array, one must channel true chi from the inside to attack the teleportation array. The people outside couldn't attack at all. Lin Yi thought that this was a dead rule. He didn't expect that it was not completely the case. It seems to be possible. When I asked the two West Island guards, they didn't completely deny it. They just said that it was very difficult. Huayudi tried hard to recall. Then, you enter the teleportation array first. I will try it outside. If I can succeed, you can go out. Lin immediately decided. You can open it? Huayudi was shocked. She had already given up the idea of going out. She never thought that Lin Yi would have the confidence to try it at this time. I don't dare to guarantee it, but it's not illegal to try. Anyway, I'm idle here. If it doesn't work, I'll think of other ways. Lin Yi didn't take it seriously and smiled. According to his speculation, this trial teleportation array would recognize the strength of the teleportation target. However, the final driving force used for teleportation was still the powerful true chi absorbed by the array eye. In other words, even after a month, as long as the true chi produced was enough to be converted into the driving force for teleportation, then the teleportation array would be activated. After all, that 1-month deadline was only set for ordinary nascent soul stage cultivators who could activate the extreme power of true chi. It definitely didn't include him, Lin Yi. Of course, this was only a guess of Lin Yi's. Whether or not he could succeed still depended on the result of the attempt. As long as this theory was established, Lin Yi believed that the two of them should be able to leave smoothly. Because the power of the move he activated was far above that of ordinary nascent soul stage cultivators. Although a month and a half had passed, there was still a possibility of success. Oh, all right then. Seeing that Lin Yi was so excited, although Huayudi felt that it was impossible, she still obediently walked into the teleportation array. Chapter 4739. If there were no special moves, ordinary cultivators would not be able to attack it from the outside. However, this obstacle was naturally not difficult for Lin. If he only wanted to attack the array eye inside, he had at least 5 ways. But now that he needed to use the strongest martial arts, Lin Yi undoubtedly chose the 5 elements murderous aura. With a soul-stirring low dragon roar, a 5 elements murderous aura rushed out of Lin Yi's palm. Although the speed was extremely fast and overbearing, it gave people the feeling that it was like a real dragon floating. As long as Lin Yi thought about it, it could easily change direction at any time. Not surprisingly, the 5 elements murderous aura hit the teleportation array eye without any suspense. Then, under the extremely surprised eyes of Huayudi, the entire teleportation array suddenly glowed with a dazzling white light, and it was actually activated. Seeing Hui Yudi's figure disappear in the teleportation array, Lin Yi suddenly felt relieved. Just now, he only used 50% of his true qi, and he was able to send Hui Yudi away smoothly. It could be seen that even if the theory he had imagined was not completely correct, it should be close to it. His previous guess was right. The reason why the West Island officials stated that 1 month was the teleportation limit was that the attack limit of a Yuanying stage master could only reach this step. But Lin Yi was different. His real strength was now comparable to a real master of the profound ascending stage, and the power of his martial arts was far from comparable to other masters of the Yuanying stage. Not only that, Lin Yi was only a master of the middle stage Yuanying stage on the surface. The true qi he urged was also the true qi of the Yuanying stage, but the power was amazing, so it was not limited by the level of the teleportation array. Otherwise, if it was a master of the profound ascending stage, the teleportation array might not be able to bear the true qi of the profound ascending stage. Naturally, there was no way to send people out like Lin Yi. Perhaps this was the real trick. It was like a ferry wanting to cross a 100-mile river with high wind and waves. The ferry had to have enough power, or else it would be impossible to reach the other side. At the same time, the passengers on the ferry could not exceed the load of the ferry itself, or else they would not even be qualified to board the ferry, let alone cross the river. Ordinary Yuanying stage masters can't provide such a strong force, and as for the masters of the profound ascending stage, although they have this power, they are seriously overweight and can't board the ship. Only a freak like Lin Yi, the weight of a Yuanying stage master, has the power of a profound ascending stage master. Only then could he succeed in forcing his way through. Without hesitation, Lin Yi immediately approached the teleportation formation, and another 5 elements murderous aura activated the teleportation. In the afternoon, after experiencing a torturous wait that felt like a year, Kang Mingming and Su Lingchong finally got through the daunting experience without mishap, and they successfully waited until the moment when the trial results would be announced. In the side courtyard of the palace, a group of judges and trial takers gathered once again. When they saw Ning Shangling and Ning Xuefei reappear in front of everyone, the corners of Kang Mingming's mouth curled up. Looking at Ning Xuefei, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. From now on, this little beauty will belong to him. Seeing Kang Mingming's undisguised perverted expression, Ning Xuefei couldn't help but feel nauseous. She looked helplessly at Ning Shangling in front of her, hoping that her mother could help her get rid of this shameless bastard. Unfortunately, in the face of her daughter's request for help, Ning Shangling had no response. As the master of West Island, on this occasion, no matter how much she cared about Ning Xuefei, it was impossible for her to say anything in public. In fact, even if she had arranged any backup plan, it was impossible to let Ning Xuefei know that these dirty things were enough for her as a mother. Now it was not Ning Xuefei's turn to bear the burden. However, she didn't know that the innocent and kind daughter in Ning Shangling's eyes had secretly made up her mind at this moment. If she really let Kang Mingming, this shameless bastard, succeed today, then she would follow the example of Shanghai Laner's small curly bear and find a chance to kill Kang Mingming, so that he and Su Lingchong could sympathize with each other. Kang Mingming was totally unaware of this. He was still immersed in the dream of ruling the harem of West Island. If Su Lingchong hadn't reminded him from time to time, he would have laughed like a fool. Thank you, judges. All the results of the trial takers have been accurately measured. I believe it is fair and objective enough. I will announce the final result now. Ning Shangling glanced at the audience and announced slowly. Before she finished speaking, everyone's eyes had automatically focused on Kang Mingming. Everyone knew that this guy must be the winner who had the last laugh. There was no doubt about it. However, at this moment, a commotion suddenly came from the direction of the teleportation portal not far away. Everyone turned to look, only to find that 2 people had suddenly appeared at the teleportation portal's exit. In an instant, everyone present was dumbfounded. Hey, everyone is here. It seems that we are not late. How lucky we are. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Lin Yi smiled faintly as he walked towards them. Hui Yudi followed behind him with a light smile. This time, it had been delayed for half a month. Lin Yi thought that the result had already been settled, and things would be a little tricky to deal with. However, he didn't expect that Ning Shangling had also delayed for half a month, and he and Hui Yudi happened to catch up. This was really a coincidence. Ning Xuefei's eyes instantly lit up. Han Jingjing and Shangguan Laner, who were by her side, had already shouted for Lin Yi and little junior brother while cheering and jumping as they rushed over. If not for her mother blocking in front of her, Ning Xuefei would probably have rushed over even faster than the two of them. However, she could only wave desperately from afar. Lin Yi chuckled as he responded to the girls. Meanwhile, Hui Yudi, who was behind him, couldn't wait to run over to Lu Ziyu's side. Lu Ziyu had been very worried for her during this period of time. She had clearly become a little haggard, and looking at her made her heart ache. "Brother Ling, you're fine. I knew you wouldn't die so easily." Qi Wenhan laughed loudly at the side. He came forward with Xia Luoluo and gave Lin Yi a fierce bear hug. In this half a month he had really been on tenterhooks. Every day, he didn't know the taste of his food and couldn't sleep at night. He had lost a lot of weight, and even his originally masculine aura had become a little shallow. Hee, sorry to have made you guys worry. Lin Yi was touched. If they weren't brothers who had gone through thick and thin with each other, why would they be so worried for him? Qi Wenhan had not been a brother for nothing. Chapter 4740. This disciple from the North Island, are you questioning the impartiality of our West Island? Yen Xinlan immediately stared at Kong Mingming with anger and murderous intent in her eyes. This guy not only dug up the Thunder Xian vine, but also dared to question West Island in public for opening the back door for Lin. In her eyes, it was a deliberate provocation. Did he really think that West Island didn't kill people? No, I just feel strange. Otherwise, how can we explain this guy's sudden appearance? Is that right? Kong Mingming was shocked when he saw this, and quickly pulled the other people present to be his shield. After all, everyone like him was curious about how Lin Yi and Hui Yudi could suddenly appear. In fact, not only these people, at this time, even Ning Shangling, Yen Xinlan, and the other high-level members of West Island also felt that it was incredible. After a whole month and a half, they could still be transmitted out. This was something that had never happened before. This was the first time, which was simply unprecedented. Oh, it seems that you're really curious about this. Then I'll be merciful and tell you that it was the master of the profound ascending stage who sent us out. Lin Yi smiled lightly. What? Impossible. If he can send you out, why didn't he come out himself? Kong Mingming's brain worked very fast this time, and he immediately found a flaw. Everyone else was also confused, especially Ning Shangling and others. They were familiar with the operation of the teleportation formation, and they knew that it was impossible for a master of the profound ascending stage to start the teleportation formation. They had tried many times before, but they had never succeeded. Then you can ask him. That guy has been trapped in there for so many years. Who knows what he has learned? There are so many weird people these days. Lin Yi made up irresponsibly. He didn't want others to doubt him, so he simply made up his mind. Anyway, no one could ask the scarred man for confirmation now. Whatever he said, it was useless even if he doubted it. Hui Yudi giggled when she heard this. However, she immediately tightened her expression. Since Lin Yi didn't want others to know, then she could only accompany him to keep it a secret until the end of time. Everyone looked at each other when they heard this. Scarface and the other trial takers had all seen this before. How could such a greedy and cruel mountain king be so kind as to send someone out for no reason? However, no matter how much they didn't believe it, there was nothing they could do. Just as Lin Yi thought, there was no way to verify this matter. As long as Hui Yudi did not expose him, he could only allow Lin Yi to spout nonsense, and in the end, it would become a meaningless case without a lead. Kong Mingming looked at Lin Yi and snorted coldly. He said arrogantly, "It doesn't matter. You can't pose any threat to me anyway. I'll show you the moment of my final victory." Oh! Lin Yi smiled nonchalantly, too lazy to deal with the guy. He turned to Ning Shangling and asked, "I'm sorry, but I didn't say anything. Where can I register the spoils?" Ning Shangling smiled slightly and nodded to the disciple of West Island who was in charge of this matter. Immediately, A judge came over and appraised Lin Yi in public. The result is already obvious. What good treasure can this guy who can't even save his life take out? It's really a waste of everyone's time. Kong Ming sneered on the side. Most of the others had the same idea. However, when they saw clearly what Lin Yi took out, the whole audience suddenly boiled. Thunder Xian Ratan, it was Thunder Xian Ratan again. Ning Shangling, Yan Xinlan, and other high-level officials of West Island couldn't help but feel their eyelids twitch. A Thunder Xian Ratan was dug out by Kong Ming before. That was enough to make them angry. They didn't expect that Lin Yi would take out another one now. How could other disciples of West Island survive? However, when they carefully looked at the Thunder Xian Ratan that Lin Yi took out, the eyes of the high-level officials of West Island suddenly became much kinder. This was a mature Thunder Xian Ratan, and it was not uprooted. That was to say, this was completely reasonable, and it was totally different from the one Kong Ming had. Kong Ming suddenly stared at it, and he couldn't say a word. He could only turn his head and look at Su Lingchong next to him. How could this pretentious guy have a Thunder Xian Ratan, and it's a mature Thunder Xian Ratan? Su Lingchong also shook his head incredulously. When they went in, there was no mature Thunder Xian Ratan, and there was no place for Lin Yi and Hui Yudi to hide it at that time. How did it come about? The whole audience was in an uproar. Before, Kong Ming was undoubtedly the first with an immature Thunder Xian Ratan. Unexpectedly, a mature Thunder Xian Ratan popped out and stepped on Kong Ming. This scene was so dramatic that it seemed to have been discussed. It's impossible. How could it be possible? Where did you get it? Kong Ming stared blankly, and his expression showed that he was about to go crazy. His dream of the harem in West Island was about to come true, but it was suddenly stepped on and smashed into pieces. In particular, the other party was Lin Yi, his sworn enemy. Anyone would go crazy. Oh, it was also given to me by the master of the mysterious ascension stage. He is actually a very good man. Lin Yi's irresponsible answer immediately made the audience's eyes fall to the ground. Kong Ming was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes turned black and he almost passed out on the spot. The higher one climbed, the harder he fell. At this moment, it was a true portrayal of him. While Lin Yi shocked the audience, Hui Yudi didn't need to win the final victory like him, but she still had to go through the motions. She casually took out 2 treasures of heaven and earth that she extorted from the scarred man, and she could easily deal with it, and she wouldn't lose face for Lu Ziyu. As for the Thunder Xian Ratan, it was naturally better to hide it as deep as possible. Unless he had to take it, like Lin Yi, otherwise only a fool would take it out in public to show off. Wouldn't that be asking for trouble for no reason? In this way, no one could shake Lin Yi's first place. No matter how unwilling Kong Ming was, it was useless. Compared with Lin Yi's Thunder Xian Ratan, the value of his immature Thunder Xian Ratan was not just a little bit lower. There was basically no comparison between them. After all, a mature Thunder Xian Ratan could refine the best quality Thunder Xian pill, while an immature Thunder Xian Ratan could at most refine a low-grade Thunder Xian pill. The success rate of the former was close to 100%, while the latter was less than 60% at most. What was there to compare? At this time, standing in the corner, Ren Zhongyuan and the others looked at the Thunder Xian Ratan in Lin Yi's hands from afar. Their faces were filled with greed, and they couldn't help but look at each other. They really didn't think that such a weak guy would be able to get a mature Thunder Xian Ratan in the end. This kind of heaven-defying luck was really fucking crazy. Chapter 47-41. Ren Zhongyuan and the others couldn't help but regret secretly. It would be great if they didn't part ways with this kid. Maybe the Thunder Xian Ratan wouldn't have fallen into this kid's hands. Instead, it would have been theirs. The longevity route that the 3 of them had worked so hard to get was simply a street good compared with the Thunder Xian Ratan. But it was useless to regret now. They couldn't do anything except drool at this time. Fortunately, since Lin Yi was bound to be the first, it meant that he would soon become Ning Shangling's son-in-law. Once he became West Island's son-in-law, he would definitely have nothing to do with Hui Yudi. This was Ren Zhongyuan's only self-comfort. However, at this moment, the 2 underlings standing behind him, Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu, saw this scene and wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Hui Yudi didn't come out before, and it wasn't an exaggeration to say that her life and death were unknown. Therefore, the two of them felt that there was no need to add to Ren Zhongyuan's troubles, so they didn't say what they saw in the trial ground before. But now, not only did Hui Yudi come out, even her wild man came out with her. The two of them had to let Ren Zhongyuan know. Otherwise, if this matter were to be exposed in the future, and Ren Zhongyuan found out that they had been cuckolded for so long because of the two of them hiding it, he would definitely flip out on the spot. The two of them couldn't bear Ren Zhongyuan's monstrous anger. Brother Ren, there's something we have to tell you. You have to hold on, Li Yuzhou said cautiously. What's the matter? Ren Zhongyuan looked back at the two of them who wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. He couldn't help but frown. If you have something to say it quickly. That's fine. Brother Ren, you must hold on. Li Yuzhou whispered and then gave Sun Baolu a look, motioning him to speak. Brother Ren, in fact, Hui Yudi has already hooked up with the man named Lin. We saw her and Lin Yi having sex in broad daylight in the trial ground before. This is a real adulterous couple. Sun Baolu said bluntly. What the fuck are you talking about? Ren Zhongyuan slapped Sun Baolu without saying anything. Sun Baolu spun around 3 times from the slap. He saw stars and almost fainted. It wasn't that Ren Zhongyuan didn't believe them, it was just that this matter was simply impossible. Who was Hui Yudi? She was one of the Eastern continent's prideful pair. She was a pure and innocent girl. How could she casually hook up with a man? What kind of fucking hookup? This kid's brain must be filled with sperm and dreaming. We're not talking nonsense. We took a photo. Hurry up and show it to Brother Ren. Sun Baolu covered his swollen mouth with one hand and looked at Ren Zhongyuan pitifully while urging Li Yuzhou to take out the evidence. Under Ren Zhongyuan's murderous gaze, Li Yuzhou hurriedly took out his digital camera. After fiddling with it for a while, he found the photo he had taken at that time and carefully handed it to Ren Zhongyuan. Ren Zhongyuan took it and looked at it. He was stunned. Although this photo was not particularly clear, it was enough to distinguish the two protagonists in it. Who else could it be but Hui Yudi lying on it? Looking at the unrestrained positions of the two people in the photo, he watched helplessly as his goddess actually hooked up with a man. Ren Zhongyuan's whole heart was cold. In an instant, he was disheartened and even had the thought of dying. Yo, I didn't expect this Miss Hua to look so pure. I didn't expect her to be so open. What a pity. Yi Xiaotian, who was next to him, came over and took a look. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He had also coveted Hui Yudi for a long time. TSK, I have long said that she is a woman. Senior Brother Ren, you didn't believe me before. Now, seeing is believing. Yao Jieli didn't miss the opportunity to gossip. Hui Yudi had always been high and mighty in front of them, a goddess who didn't eat the food of mortals. Now, she was finally beaten back to her original form. She was just a shameless slut. 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 Ren Zhongyuan was so angry that smoke came out of his head. He gritted his teeth and looked at the adulterous couple, Lin Yi and Hui Yudi. At this moment, there were only 2 things in his mind. Kill Lin Yi, and then kill Hui Yudi, the bitch? It was a pity that this was the territory of West Island, and it was also the side courtyard of the Summer Palace under the watchful eyes of the public. No matter how angry Ren Zhongyuan was, he could only hold it back first. Otherwise, if he moved a little, he would be the first to be unlucky. Don't worry, Brother Ren. You don't have to kill to vent your anger. I have a way to embarrass this adulterous couple in front of everyone, so that you can vent your anger. Li Yuzhou rolled his eyes and suggested a plan. Do you really have a way? Although Ren Zhongyuan's eyes were still full of fire, he was still a little rational. Hearing this, he turned his head and looked at him. Li Yuzhou nodded repeatedly and whispered in Li Yuzhou's ear. Ren Zhongyuan nodded again and said with a face full of resentment, Okay, I'll do as you say. Today, let everyone see the true colors of this adulterous couple, and then I'll find a chance to kill them. While they were talking, Ning Shangling had begun to announce the result in public. Although there was no suspense, she still had to go through the formalities. Everyone, after the cross-evaluation of a group of judges, I officially announce that the final winner of this West Island trial is Lin Yi from the North Island. There weren't any cheers or noises, but everyone looked at Lin Yi with envy, especially Kang Xiaoming's eyes that were filled with venom. Since he had won the West Island test, it was time to announce the more important show. According to the rules set at the previous birthday party, the winner of this West Island trial can become my daughter's future husband. Lin, are you willing? Ning Shangling's eyes fell on Lin Yi, and there was a little imperceptible joy in her eyes. After all, he was the candidate she had been optimistic about for a long time. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was a dragon among men. What was more, he had a relationship with her daughter, and the two could be said to be a match made in heaven. Lin Yi glanced at Ning Xuefei, who was so shy that her heart was in a mess for a moment. Answering this question meant that he would be married to Ning Xuefei from now on, which was too unfair to the other women who had been waiting for him. Be it in terms of feelings or bonds, any one of them was far above Ning Xuefei. In terms of status, they were the ones who should be at the top. He felt that he owed them far too much, and he wouldn't be able to repay this debt in a lifetime. However, it was an emergency, and it was impossible for Lin Yi to retreat at this time. Under the eyes of the public, he nodded solemnly and said, "I'm willing." Chapter 47-42. These three simple words made Ning Xuefei immersed in unparalleled shyness and joy. Although she had been thinking a lot these days, and although her heart belonged to Lin Yi, she also knew that this matter was actually too hasty. Therefore, she had been a little hesitant in her heart. She wasn't sure if she could really entrust the rest of her life to him. However, because of Lin Yi's serious injuries, this hesitance and uneasiness in the past half a month had been covered up. She didn't expect that things would take a turn today. Only then did Ning Xuefei realize that she was really going to settle down with Lin Yi. All of this happened too suddenly, so suddenly that she was caught unprepared. She didn't know how to react. But now, although Ning Xuefei still didn't know what the future would be, she already knew her feelings. Because when she heard these three words from Lin Yi, she was very relieved and happy. This was already enough. Hearing these three words from Lin Yi, Han Jingjing and Laner, who were crowding around him, suddenly felt a little sour in their hearts for some reason. This feeling was complicated and difficult to understand. They had never felt this way before. With their characters, they rarely worried about anything. Even when Lin Yi was seriously injured this time, they were only worried for a while at the beginning. Later on, when they found out that Lin Yi was fine, they quickly returned to their previous state. However, this time, they couldn't help but feel an indescribable bitterness in their hearts. It was as if their beloved things had been snatched away. Although they knew that Lin Yi wouldn't leave them because of this, they still felt an inexplicable sense of loss. However, the two of them wouldn't really be bothered by this matter. After all, the idea of letting Lin Yi become Ning Xuefei's future husband was instigated by the two of them at the beginning. In the future, they would eventually have such a day. It was just that their best friend, Ning Xuefei, had gotten ahead of them temporarily. Compared to Han Jingjing and Laner, Hui Yudi was really worried about her gains and losses. Looking at Lin Yi, she couldn't help but bite her lips. She didn't know how she should react at this moment. Should she congratulate Lin Yi? Or should she hold a grudge against this heartless man who doesn't know how to flirt? Hui Yudi couldn't help but feel a little regretful. She regretted coming out and staying in the trial with Lin. Wouldn't that be great? Once they came out, Lin Yi would definitely marry Ning Xuefei. This was something that had been announced long ago, and Lin Yi had also told her personally. How could he have forgotten about such an important matter just now? At the side, Lu Ziyu sighed. She patted Hui Yudi's hand lightly. Hui Yudi was her precious disciple whom she had brought up since she was young. She wasn't even her biological daughter, but she was even closer to her biological daughter. How could she not know what Hui Yudi was thinking about? She originally thought that it would be nice if Lin Yi could become a couple with her precious disciple. Unfortunately, fate made fools of people. Now that Lin Yi had become Ning Xuefei's future husband, he definitely couldn't marry anyone else. Not only the people of West Island wouldn't agree, but even she, Lu Ziyu, wouldn't agree. Seeing that Lin Yi agreed in public, Ning Shangling was happy. She was about to officially decide on their marriage. However, before she spoke, Two people suddenly stood out from the crowd and said loudly, "No." Everyone present was stunned at once, and they all looked at Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu strangely. They even dared to interrupt Ning Shangling's words in public. These two people were out of their minds. Were they tired of living? Who said no? How dare they make trouble in our West Island? Come on, drag them out. Ning Shangling didn't need to speak. Yan Xinlan, who was next to her, immediately ordered with a gloomy face. Four disciples of West Island with towering momentum suddenly appeared around the two people. They were not ordinary guards. Disciples who could directly obey Yan Xinlan, the deputy island owner, were the elites of West Island. At least they had the cultivation of the mysterious ascending period. With the strength of Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu, they had no power to resist at all. The two people were so scared that they wet their pants on the spot. If they were really dragged out, they would be half disabled even if they didn't die. They hurriedly shouted, "Wait! Lin Yi has a big problem with his character. He doesn't deserve to be West Island's son-in-law." As soon as these words came out, all the people present were in an uproar. Lin Yi himself looked inexplicable. He squinted at Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu, but he had no impression of these two guys. But when he saw them standing next to Ren Zhongyuan's group, he seemed to be thinking about something. "Oh!" Ning Shangling didn't feel offended. She stopped the four guards of West Island with a look, and then her eyes fell on the two people, signaling them to continue talking. It was related to Ning Xuefei's marriage, and there was no room for carelessness. Although Ning Shangling was quite satisfied with Lin Yi, if he really had a big problem with his character as these two people said, then she had to reconsider. Although Ning Shangling's eyes were still calm and gentle at the moment, and other people present didn't feel anything strange, Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu suddenly felt a lot of pressure. The majesty and overbearing hidden in her eyes couldn't be felt by outsiders. There was no pressure in her eyes, but the two people involuntarily knelt down. They couldn't help it, their knees didn't listen to them. In the previous trial, we saw with our own eyes that Lin Yi and Hui Yudi had sex in broad daylight. To be able to do such an immoral thing, it can be seen how bad this kid's character is. How can such a person be the prince consort of the West Island? Sun Baolu couldn't bear the huge pressure and quickly said, Yes, we have evidence. You can see it for yourselves." Li Yuzhou said as he took out the camera and showed it to everyone present openly. In an instant, the whole scene was in an uproar. There were always busybodies everywhere. After seeing such a hot photo, they all started to whistle at Lin Yi and Hui Yudi. All kinds of unpleasant comments came one after another. The side courtyard of the island master's palace became a low-class bar, full of obscene words. Ning Shangling, who had always been graceful and generous, at this moment, her face completely darkened. Even though she was far away, with her strength, she could naturally see clearly at a glance. The two people in the photo were none other than Lin Yi and Hui Yudi. Although Ning Shangling had already asked people to carefully investigate Lin Yi and knew that he had many lovers, not only Shanghai Laner and Han Jingjing were related to him, but also in other places, even in places like Middle Island and East Continent. There was no doubt that this was a man who was overflowing with love affairs. Chapter 47-43. But according to the rules passed down by the ancestors of West Island, if Lin Yi became Ning Xuefei's husband, he could only be with Ning Xuefei in name for the rest of his life, and couldn't have other women. After all, this was a society of women's rights. As the successor of West Island, Ning Xuefei naturally had to set an example for the people of West Island. However, rules were dead, but people were alive. Ning Shangling knew very well that if they clung to these rules, then West Island would never be able to recruit an extraordinary genius like Lin Yi. If they secluded themselves, they would only get weaker and weaker, and the gap between them and other Heaven Stage islands would get bigger and bigger. In the end, they could only sink into oblivion forever. In fact, Ning Shangling had a lot of ways to circumvent this so-called ancestral rule, but there was an important prerequisite. Before these things were properly handled, they couldn't be brought up in public and had to be done in private. But now, Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu suddenly jumped out at this time and casually let everyone present see the photos. This immediately messed up Ning Shangling's plan, and it was hard to get off the tiger. And at this moment, Lu Ziyu's face was also very ugly. She could accept the relationship between Lin Yi and Hui Yudi in private, but to be exposed in public like this, that was a disgrace to the whole East continent. Lu Ziyu suddenly flew into a rage out of humiliation. Although she secretly hated Hui Yudi for not having self-respect, she hated Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu the most at this time, these two busybodies with ulterior motives. By doing this, not only did they disgrace her and East Continent, but more importantly, they damaged Hui Yudi's reputation, which was the most important thing for a girl. After noticing Lu Ziyu's fierce gaze, Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu couldn't help but be frightened. He had already knelt down because of Ning Shangling's gaze. This time, he couldn't even kneel steadily. His whole body was almost lying on the ground. His whole body was trembling like a sieve, and he couldn't stop trembling. Even if Lu Ziyu couldn't kill them in public in this public place, don't forget that they were going back to East Continent on the treasure ship together. At that time, the Vice Dean of Morning Pride Academy could casually think of something. It could kill the two of them without making a sound. Only then did the two of them feel extremely regretful. They wished they could slap themselves until they fainted. Fuck, why did they come up with such a stupid idea in a moment of hot-headedness? This was simply courting death. However, now that things had come to this, it was useless no matter how much they regretted it. Faced with the hostile gazes of Ning Shangling, Lu Ziyu, and Yan Xinlan, they could only brace themselves and continue speaking. In this West Island trial, everyone knew that it was related to the marriage of the princess of West Island. However, Lin Yi did something improper with Hui Yudi in the trial. He clearly didn't put everyone in West Island in his eyes. Li Yuzhou hurriedly shifted his hatred. Yes, this kind of person is morally inferior. He doesn't even take such an important trial seriously. Instead, he impairs public morals and plays with other women in broad daylight. How can this kind of person entrust the princess of West Island to him? Sun Baolu echoed. Those who were watching a good show didn't mind the matter getting bigger. The others also started to make a ruckus. Hui Yudi's face turned pale when she heard that. She became anxious instantly. She broke away from Lu Ziyu's hand and was ready to stand up and tell the truth. However, Lin Yi stood up one step ahead of her. He didn't want Hui Yudi to clarify. Although there was nothing between them, even if Hui Yudi told the truth, he couldn't escape the fact that he was lying under her skirt to treat the poison. If it was spread out, it would still cause irreparable damage to her reputation. Is it interesting to say this? Can this photo be used as evidence against us? Lin Yi said slowly and calmly. Everyone was stunned when they heard that. When this happened, everyone thought that Lin Yi would fly into a rage out of shame, but they didn't expect this guy to act like nothing had happened. It seemed that this had nothing to do with him at all. Could it be that it was fake? Isn't this the evidence? Everyone has seen it. This is the real and irrefutable evidence. Do you still want to quibble? Li Yuzhou hurriedly insisted. Irrefutable evidence? You think a random photo can be used as irrefutable evidence? Ignorance isn't your fault, but treating us as fools like you is really not right. Lin Yi curled his lips disapprovingly. Ignorance? How are we ignorant? Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu couldn't help but look at each other. The rest of the people revealed expressions of confusion. In any case, they didn't dare to join in the commotion at this time. Otherwise, they would really be treated as brainless fools. Wouldn't that make them clowns that would be laughed at by others? Seeing that Lin Yi had grasped the rhythm of everyone present with just a few sentences, and that a crisis that was about to get out of hand was actually so easily controlled by him, Ning Shangling, who had a gloomy expression, couldn't help but slightly curve up the corners of her mouth. It seems that Lin Yi is not only superior in strength, but he is also well-versed in the way of dealing with people. He is far from being comparable to other young people of the same generation. He is really extraordinary. I came from the secular world. The mobile phones and cameras in the secular world now have Photoshop functions. It is very simple to put two people together. How can this be used as evidence? How dare you take it out to fool people on such a solemn occasion where so many sages gather? Lin Yi sneered and looked at the two of them like he was looking at idiots. This kind of retarded trick can only fool some brainless people. If you want to fool me from the secular world, you are simply asking to be humiliated. Yeah, big bro Lin's right. If you two want to, Jing can even Photoshop the two of you together. Do whatever you want, whatever position you want, even if it's Photoshopped, you guys don't want it. Han Jingjing said in support of Lin. Her words made everyone burst into laughter. Although they didn't understand some of the secular words, they were smart people with flexible brains. It didn't prevent them from understanding the meaning. At this time, the gazes that they looked at Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu became evil. The two of them were so embarrassed that their old faces turned red. Do you have evidence to prove that this photo is real? Ning Shangling immediately asked. The answer was obvious. Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu were genuine natives of Heavenstage Island. It was already amazing that they could use a camera. They thought that a photo was irrefutable evidence. How could they have thought that there was such a thing? The two of them were completely illiterate in technology. If they could explain this clearly in public, pigs could fly in the sky. Chapter 47-44. They had slandered Hui Yudi and Lin Yi in public. The former was Lu Ziyu's precious disciple, while the latter was Ning Shuefei's fiancé. Once they were convicted, the consequences could be imagined. Even if they were lucky enough to survive, they would definitely be punished. They might not even be able to return to the East Continent. Seeing that the matter was about to be settled, Kong Ming suddenly jumped out and said excitedly, "Whether the photos are real or not, I have the right to speak. I'm also from the secular world. As long as you bring the camera over and let me see if it has the Photoshop function, the truth will be revealed." For a moment, everyone revealed expressions of watching a good show. Kong Ming's intention was obvious. As long as he could bring down Lin Yi, then based on the results of this trial, he would undoubtedly be the biggest beneficiary. That was why he was so proactive. With such a sudden change in the situation, Lin Yi immediately knew that things were not going well. Of course, he knew that the photos of the two people were not photoshopped, especially since the other party's camera was a single-lens reflex. It did not have the so-called Photoshop function. He had said that just now purely to fool these two fools. It was obviously impossible to fool Kong Ming, a person from the secular world. As expected, Kong Ming took the camera and looked at it, then began to speak with fervor and assurance. He laid out all kinds of facts and reasoning to the people present in a professional and thorough manner. In fact, he had already seen through it. Otherwise, he would not have jumped out so easily. It was a pity that the people present were all natives of the Heavenly Stage Island. No matter how talented they were, no matter how wise and farsighted they were, they had no scientific knowledge. Although Kong Ming said a few seemingly profound professional terms from time to time, it did not help in explaining the matter at all. Instead, it made people even more confused. They looked at each other and shook their heads in confusion. Kong Xiaoming was a dabbler himself, and it wasn't easy for him to explain the situation with just his mouth, especially with Lin Yi's random interruption in the middle. He had to rack his brain for a long time, and even after talking for a long time until his mouth was dry, he still couldn't convince anyone. The final result was that the crowd wasn't completely one-sided and remained skeptical. Although it still caused a lot of trouble for Lin Yi, he didn't manage to take down Lin Yi as he wished. The result could only be considered passable. What was supposed to be the closing ceremony of the trial had been turned into a science and technology debate. The development of the situation was really unexpected. Ning Shangling really didn't know what to say. Ning Shangling wanted to end this farce, but she couldn't help but worry about Lin Yi and Hui Yudi's reputation. If she abruptly stopped it, people would definitely gossip about her. No matter how she tried to explain or salvage the situation, it would be useless. Therefore, everyone, including Ning Shangling, could only continue to listen patiently. The wrangling would only end when they could come to a conclusion that everyone was convinced of. All of this. Hui Yudi was also confused, but she already understood Lin Yi's intentions. She couldn't help but secretly sigh in relief. Since she didn't need to say this somewhat awkward truth, it naturally couldn't be any better. That was naturally for the best. Seeing that everyone was getting a little impatient and that Kong Ming's explanation was becoming more and more useless, Hui Yudi didn't miss the opportunity to stand out. She said with an indifferent expression, Island Lord Ning, don't listen to that idiot's nonsense. Don't listen to that guy's bullshit. He was the one who injured Lin Yi during the test. He has a huge grudge against us. Therefore, he's thinking of ways to maliciously slander us. His intentions are deserving of death. He was the one who injured Lin Yi? Ning Shangling's bright and beautiful eyes immediately narrowed slightly. Even if Hui Yudi didn't explain in detail, with her intelligence, she could roughly deduce what had happened based on the information she had obtained and the reactions of the two of them. Lin Yi and Kang Mingming had most likely fought over the Thunder Xian Vine. The result was obvious that both sides were injured. Although both of them had obtained a Thunder Xian Vine, Ning Shangling was clearly on Lin Yi's side. Kang Mingming was a shameless person who didn't abide by the rules. He really deserved to die. In that case, what he said was all false. No wonder he couldn't explain himself after talking for so long. Lu Ziyu said as she stared at Kang Mingming with an unfriendly expression. She naturally had to help her disciple when there was an opportunity like this. That's right. Actually, there's no need for this matter to be so complicated. Disciple's chastity mark is still here, and that's the most convincing evidence. That idiot said so much nonsense just to confuse everyone's attention and fish in troubled waters. He's a despicable person, harboring malicious intentions. Hui Yudi said with a cold snort. Is what you said true? Lu Ziyu was overjoyed when she heard that. She looked at Ning Shangling, and the two of them immediately asked Hui Yudi to roll up her sleeves. The chastity mark on her arm was intact. Then, everyone finally had no more doubts. Different from the perjury of the photos, the chastity mark was the real evidence, which proved that Hui Yudi had not lost her virginity at all. As for having an affair with Lin Yi in broad daylight, that was naturally a lie. Ning Shangling's dignified gaze swept across the whole place and finally fell on Kang Mingming. She said calmly, "What's your name? Kang Kaizi, right? Let me tell you, it's a felony to falsely accuse others in West Island. The severity of the punishment is beyond ordinary people's imagination. Do you still want to continue to argue?" Kang Mingming was speechless at once. Damn it, what kind of name is this? When did I become Kang Kaizi? But now he also realized that if he continued to talk, not only would it be a waste of his saliva, he might even get into trouble. So, he could only choose to shut up resentfully. When Kang Mingming saw that the situation was not good, he could withdraw himself, but as the initiators, Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu, it was really hard for them to back down now. If it was a false accusation, Kang Mingming was at most joining in the fun, while the two of them were the real initiators. As for the two of you, considering that you're disciples of East State College, it's not convenient for me to punish you. Just leave it to Deputy Dean Lu to deal with. Don't spoil everyone's fun, Ning Shangling said lightly. Okay. Lu Ziyu nodded, glanced at the two of them coldly and said on the spot, "I'll deal with you properly when we go back." His words made Li Yuzhou and Sun Baolu's hair stand on end. It's over, it's really over this time. This time, the crime of false accusation was completely proven, and they even fell into the hands of the other party's master. Could they still have a good ending? Chapter 47-45. At this time, no one would care about these two poor guys. Things were finally back on track. Ning Shangling said loudly in public, "Now, as the owner of West Island, I solemnly announce that Lin Yi, the disciple of North Island, is the fiancé of my daughter, Ning Xuefei." All the people present applauded. Now that they had seen the fun, of course, they had to give face to the host. They couldn't let the atmosphere be awkward. Besides, many of them had seen Lin Yi's strength, so they were sincerely convinced by Lin Yi. From today on, you have to remember that you are not only the disciple of the three pavilions of North Island, but also a member of West Island. In the future, every move you make outside should be based on the overall interests of West Island. Remember? Ning Shangling admonished him in public, and then changed her tone. Of course, if someone or something offends you, you don't have to swallow it. Although we are all women in West Island, we are never afraid of trouble. I and the whole West Island will be your strongest support. Hearing this, everyone present was envious, jealous, and hateful, and Lin himself couldn't help feeling excited. Until this moment, he suddenly had a hindsight. There was the Will of Heaven in Middle Island, Shanghai Tianhua in North Island, Ning Shangling in West Island, and the Ghost Thing, the former Azure Dragon of the Spirit Beast clan. Unconsciously, he had gathered such a powerful alliance around him. If such a super powerful lineup could be mobilized, it would be enough to fight an unprecedented battle in Heaven Stage Island. Not to mention Dongzhou, at least in other places, they would absolutely be invincible. As you say, island owner. Lin Yi immediately nodded and said in a deep voice. Very well, you and Fei Fei are still young, and it's not the time for you to get married. But according to the rules passed down by the ancestors of West Island, I will arrange for you to study in Dongzhou College at the same time. First, you can see the world. Second, improve your strength. And third, cultivate your relationship. I hope that after you finish your studies and come back, you can complement each other. Take responsibility and protect West Island together. Ning Shangling said. This. Lin Yi couldn't help muttering in his heart when he heard that. Wouldn't this mess up his own arrangement? From then on, he would be completely tied to West Island and wouldn't even have the chance to act freely? Ning Shangling could tell that Lin Yi was worried. He smiled and didn't say anything. After a few more words of encouragement, he officially ended the trial of West Island, which was full of twists and turns. Everyone left one after another. Except for the West Island guards who were stationed here, only Lin Yi and the others were left in the side courtyard. Lin Yi's mind is full of worries. Ning Xuefei blushes and doesn't dare to look up at him, while Han Jingjing and Shengguan Laner's eyes are moving back and forth on their faces. It wasn't easy for us to have such a happy ending. You should at least say something to celebrate. Why aren't you saying anything? Han Jingjing asked curiously. Yes, now that you've become the fiancé of junior brother, I'm here to interview Fei Fei. Do you have any acceptance speech? Shengguan Laner took a roll of paper out of nowhere and handed it to Ning Xuefei as a microphone. This girl has been with Han Jingjing for more than half a month, so she is more and more familiar with the things of the secular world. What kind of award is this? Lin Yi suddenly laughed when he heard that. Although he was a little overwhelmed by the sudden addition of Ning Xuefei as his fiancée, after all, it was something that they had discussed long ago. Besides, they weren't officially married, so he didn't really feel uncomfortable about it. He just felt it was fresh. Only knows how to be funny. Ning Xuefei also chuckled. After all, she is a little girl with a simple mind. She just saw that Lin Yi didn't say anything and thought that he regretted it, so she was nervous. But now looking at Lin Yi's expression, she knew that she obviously thought too much. After such a scene, the awkward atmosphere finally returned to normal. Lin Yi and the three women's state was the same as before. There wasn't much change. If anything, it was just that his relationship with Ning Xuefei had become a little closer. Lin Yi, what were you thinking about just now? Were you thinking about Sister Hua? Ning Xuefei rolled her eyes and suddenly suggested, Oh yeah, we haven't thanked Sister Hua yet. Let's go to her now, okay? Han Jingjing and Shengguan Laner nodded repeatedly. Hua Yudi was Lin Yi's great benefactor, so she was their great benefactor. Moreover, in their hearts, Hua Yudi was already a sister. Of course, they had to play together. Hearing this, Lin smiled. Although the three women were all simple girls, relatively speaking, Ning Xuefei was more thoughtful. She must have noticed that Hua Yudi was a little sad just now, so she wanted to take the opportunity to comfort her, right? This is not urgent. Fei Fei, let's go to see your mother first. I have something to ask her, Lin Yi said. What's the matter? Hearing this, Ning Xuefei was stunned, and then her pretty face suddenly turned red. She said weakly, You don't want to ask when we will get married, do you? Lin Yi almost choked. They just confirmed their status, and she was already thinking about getting married? What was going on in this girl's head? Did he look like he couldn't wait? No, I have other things to discuss with your mother. Fei Fei, you know, it's not realistic for me to stay in West Island all the time. I still have a lot of things to do, Lin Yi said helplessly. Oh. Hearing the mischievous laughter of Han Jingjing and Shengguan Laner, Ning Xuefei suddenly blushed. After a while, she explained, Actually, even if you do that with me, you don't have to stay in West Island all the time, really? Lin Yi's eyes lit up. Really, my father doesn't stay in West Island all the time, so you can also move freely, Ning Shuefei said. That's great. Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief and then asked, by the way, I've never heard you talk about your father. Isn't he in West Island now? No, a few years ago he left with two powerful figures to protect the peace of Heaven Stage Island, and there's no news from him until now. Speaking of this, Ning Shuefei couldn't help feeling a little disappointed, but she wasn't too worried. After all, her father was also a powerful figure. Even if there was no news from him, there wouldn't be an irreversible accident. He left with two powerful figures? Lin Yi nodded thoughtfully and didn't continue to ask more questions. He still suggested, let's go to see your mother. I want to ask her about going to Dongzhou College. Okay. Ning Shuefei didn't mind. She immediately led Lin Yi to find Ning Shangling. Along the way, they directly came to Ning Shangling's study without any notice. Chapter 47-46. Although Han Jingjing and Shanghai Laner were also together, they didn't go in to join in the fun. Instead, they stayed outside to eat snacks. Women all liked delicate and delicious snacks. In West Island, which was like a country of women, there were all kinds of snacks. The first thing they did when they got up every day was to eat snacks. You're here. Ning Shangling was dealing with some things in the study at this time. When she saw Lin Yi and Ning Shuefei come in, she just raised her head and motioned them to find a place to sit down. It seemed that she didn't treat Lin Yi, her prospective son-in-law, as an outsider. Lin Yi didn't speak directly. He and Ning Shuefei looked at each other and sat down. When Ning Shangling finished dealing with the things at hand, he cleared his throat and said, Island owner. Call me Aunt Ning for the time being. We'll be a family in the future. It's too distant to call me island owner. Ning Shangling smiled gently. Of course, after they got married, she would have to call her mother-in-law. Okay, Aunt Ning. Lin Yi didn't hesitate and immediately changed the way he addressed her. Ning Shangling smiled kindly. Not only was Ning Shuefei happy that Lin Yi could win the trial without any mishap, but she was also sincerely happy for her daughter as a mother. Aunt Ning, I have a request, and I hope you can agree. Lin Yi said after thinking for a while. Just say it. Ning Shangling said. You just said that according to the rules of West Island, you will send me and Fei Fei to East Continent College for further study? Lin Yi said. Yes, I want to talk to you about this. Except for a few colleges with extremely strict rules, you can choose all the other colleges in East Continent. Do you have any ideas? Ning Shangling asked. Aunt Ning, in fact, I don't want to go to East Continent for further study for the time being. It's not the right time for me to go to East Continent College. Going to East Continent College is likely to limit my development. What I need most now is to go everywhere to practice, not to find a safe place for further study. I hope you can understand this, Aunt Ning. Lin Yi said earnestly. Ning Shangling's eyes slightly narrowed. He looked Lin Yi up and down, noticing that the aura around him wasn't dispersing at all, unlike the other young prodigies. Lin Yi nodded in approval. You're right. With your current situation, it'll be hard for you to stay in the East Continent School. It's a waste of time. Although East Continent College was full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons, in Ning Shangling's opinion, this so-called competition might not bring much pressure to Lin. When the environment became too comfortable, even the most spirited young people would gradually become depressed. And eventually, that Lin said. Fine, if that's the case, I'll put the matter of you going to the East Continent College aside for now. However, I have a condition. You have to send Fei Fei to the East Continent first. At least from the looks of it, you'll be accompanying her. Linkai said. And, I show Lin she's you. Ning Shuefei was different from Lin Yi. Her unwillingness to cultivate was comparable to Shangguan Laner's. She only had the strength of the elixir realm. As the future successor of West Island, it was obviously not enough. Ning Shangling had long wanted to send her to the East Continent Academy for further studies, but she had always found all sorts of excuses to refuse. But this time, Ning Shuefei could not escape. Lin Yi could cultivate on his own, but she had to stay in East Continent College. There was no room for negotiation. Ning Shuefei pursed her lips. Just as he was about to speak, He was choked back by Ning Shangling's glare. He knew his own affairs, so he could only shut his mouth resentfully. "Thank you, Aunt Ning." Lin immediately agreed. Going to the East Continent Academy for further studies was the rule of West Island. He thought it would not be so easy to change it. He did not expect Ning Shangling to agree so easily. It could be seen that his mother-in-law was flexible. This was good news for Lin. Otherwise, if Ning Shangling was really a stubborn old dogma, with her identity and status, she might cause a lot of trouble in the future. He did not expect her to be so easygoing. It seemed that his life in West Island would not be too difficult. "It's up to you to decide. There's no need to thank me." Ning Shangling smiled, not minding it. She suddenly changed the topic. "Lin Yi, how did you and Hui Yudi get out? Can you tell Aunt Ning the truth? Of course, if it's inconvenient, no one will force you. It's just about the transmission mechanism of West Island's trial, so I think it's necessary to figure it out." Before, Lin Yi's excuse that a master of the mysterious ascending stage sent them out was at most to deceive outsiders who did not know the inside story. Obviously, it could not fool the high-level officials of West Island like Ning Shangling. If a master of the mysterious ascending stage could really start the transmission formation, they should have found it hundreds of years ago. This was simply impossible. Aunt Ning is wise. To tell you the truth, I actually got out with my own true chi this time. Lin Yi said frankly. There was nothing to hide about this kind of thing. It was not convenient to speak frankly in front of outsiders, but now with the relationship between Ning Shangling and himself, of course, she could not be regarded as an outsider. Oh! Ning Shangling was slightly surprised. She thought that Lin Yi and Hui Yudi found some loopholes in the transmission formation, but she did not expect the answer to be so simple. "The power of my martial arts skills has long been comparable to that of a master of the mysterious ascending stage, and I'm in the Yuanying stage. I took advantage of the loophole of the transmission formation, so I could get out smoothly." Lin Yi explained in full detail. "No wonder. With your current realm, you can be comparable to a master of the mysterious ascending stage. This is really unheard of and unseen." Ning Shangling was surprised, and suddenly she couldn't help but feel like she had picked up a treasure. This time, she could get a prospective son-in-law like Lin Yi, who had incredible means, which was probably the most gratifying gain for her in West Island in these years. In fact, because Ning Xuefei had always disliked cultivation, Ning Shangling had a lot of headaches because of this in recent years. In terms of talent and aptitude, Ning Xuefei was actually a rare genius in the world. After all, her parents had strong genes, so she was not weak even if she wanted to. However, if she didn't work hard to cultivate, what was the use of having good talent and aptitude? All of Ning Xuefei's interests were in all kinds of research and inventions. Unfortunately, this was a small way that could not be learned in the Heaven Stage Island. If she wanted to take over West Island, she had to rely on her own strength. If her own strength was not enough, even if Ning Shangling could help her to get the position of the island owner would not be stable. Of course, Ning Shangling would try her best to improve her strength, but this was by no means a matter of a day and a night. But now with a strong support like Lin Yi, the pressure on Ning Xuefei was not as great as before. Husband and wife were one. As long as Lin Yi's strength could shock everyone, Ning Xuefei could naturally be as stable as Mount Tai. Chapter 47-47. Aunt Ning, you flatter me. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Ning Shangling asked Lin Yi to stay and talk for a while, mostly with gentle words of encouragement to improve their relationship. Finally, they had dinner together before she let Lin Yi leave, and she specially arranged a new residence for Lin. After all, from today on, Lin Yi was Ning Xuefei's legitimate fiancée, and it was inappropriate for him to live in the envoy's residence in West Island. Ning Shangling specially allowed him to live in the island master's temporary imperial residence, which was next to Ning Xuefei's yard and only a few steps away from Han Jingjing's and Shanghai Laner's rooms, which was convenient for them to get together. For the next few days, Lin Yi had nothing else to do. He hung out with Ning Xuefei, Han Jingjing, and Shanghai Laner all day long. He had no choice. After the trial, the three women were very clingy to him. It was impossible for Lin Yi to cultivate alone, so he could only take time to accompany the three of them as compensation for making them worry before. At the same time, in a small courtyard not far away from the island master's temporary imperial residence, Huiyuti paid no attention to what was going on outside. Every day, she stayed indoors and immersed herself in cultivation. Lu Ziyu saw all this and her heart ached. As the saying goes, no one knows a daughter better than a mother. What Huiyuti was thinking, as a master who was not a mother but more like a mother, she knew clearly. Her precious disciple was lovesick. Don't cultivate in the house. Go out and get some fresh air, Lu Ziyu advised softly. No need, master. I've been neglected for so long in the trial of West Island. I want to make up for it. Huiyuti shook her head and said. More haste, less speed. Besides, you've reached a bottleneck now. It's useless to cultivate blindly. It's important to adjust your state of mind. Lu Ziyu looked at Huiyuti's sullen look and couldn't help feeling distressed, so she said, Aren't you very interested in things in the secular world? Han Jingjing came from the secular world. Go and play with them. Huiyuti couldn't help but be stunned. It was only when she saw the playful smile on her master's face that she came to a realization. She nodded shyly and ran out of the room. Looking at Huiyuti's back view, which had clearly become excited once again, Lu Ziyu sighed slightly, thinking to himself that fate was really making fools of people. The heavens had clearly brought the two of them together, but now they had mercilessly sentenced Lin Yi to Ning Shui. How cruel was this to die? Actually, from the bottom of his heart, Lu Ziyu did not want Huiyuti and Lin Yi to have any more contact. After all, Lin Yi was already West Island's Fuma, and this was an unchangeable fact. Lin Yi's strength was outstanding. It was far beyond Lu Ziyu's expectations. Especially when she found out from Huiyuti how they came out of the trial ground, she subconsciously felt that she was a celestial being. A mere middle-stage nascent soul cultivator could be compared to an expert of the profound ascension stage. How exaggerated, how nature-defying. Huiyuti originally wanted to keep this matter a secret, but she didn't know why. When Lu Ziyu asked, she couldn't help but say it. In short, she just wanted to show how powerful Lin Yi was in front of her master. Anyway, her master wouldn't spread it out. In fact, looking at Lu Ziyu's shocked expression after hearing it, she really felt satisfied, and her face was full of pride. It was just that Lin Yi didn't belong to her anymore. Although it was a pity, there was no other way. Lu Ziyu originally thought that after the matter between Lin Yi and Ning Xuefei was settled, Huiyuti could give up on Lin Yi with peace of mind. She didn't expect it to become like this. Looking at Huiyuti's abnormal behavior these few days, how could she have the intention to let go? As someone with experience, Lu Ziyu clearly knew that if this matter couldn't be resolved properly, it might become a mental calamity that her precious disciple couldn't overcome. Perhaps from then on, it would become a mental tribulation that his precious disciple couldn't overcome. It might seem fine at normal times, but once it came to a critical moment like a breakthrough, it would become a fatal flaw. Therefore, since Huiyuti and Lin Yi couldn't be together, then there had to be a thorough end between them. Only by saying it out clearly could this matter come to an end. Otherwise, if she kept it in her heart for no reason, not to mention breaking through to the next level, it was very likely that she would go berserk, and then it would be too late for regrets. While Lu Ziyu was frowning, she didn't know that Huiyuti herself was in high spirits at this moment. She had completely misunderstood the meaning, thinking that Lu Ziyu was encouraging her to be together with Lin Yi. If Lu Ziyu knew her precious disciple's thoughts, she really didn't know how she would react. Maybe she would directly cry until she fainted in the toilet. No matter what, they were the morning prodigies, the high and mighty goddesses in the eyes of countless East Continent Academy disciples. Who would rush her to their doorstep like this? Arriving at Ning Xuefei's courtyard, Huiyuti couldn't help but feel both excited and apprehensive as she listened to the cheerful laughter of Lin Yi and the others. Being able to see Lin Yi again after so many days made her happy, but how should she face Ning Xuefei and the others? They were all Lin Yi's confidants. Although she didn't think in this direction at the start, at this moment, she couldn't help but think about what she should do after seeing Ning Xuefei and the others. As the proud daughter of East Continent Academy, at this moment, she was actually feeling guilty and apprehensive, like a concubine meeting her mistress. The matter clearly hadn't even taken shape yet. If Lin Yi were to find out about this, he would really be drunk. Sister Hua, why are you so late? At this time, Ning Xuefei's surprised voice came from the courtyard. Unlike the others, because of Ning Shangling and Lu Ziyu, she had known Hui Yudi for a long time. It was just that West Island and East Continent were too far apart, so they rarely had the opportunity to meet.